The wait is finally over because, ladies and gentlemen, they call him the Golden Boy, but I promise you it's going to definitely be worth the wait to have him here. And he is an up-and-coming pro wrestling star. You have seen him in a number of different companies, most notably in Non-Stop Action Wrestling, where he kind of fits to the description what Non-Stop Action Wrestling has to offer. And, of course, you heard his name last week with us on the air because, well, he was the first participant announced for the 8-person Non-Stop Action Wrestling World Class Championship Tournament to crown the company's first ever champion. And certainly no pressure on him. We've got a lot to talk about with him. Also, here very shortly, we actually have an announcement involving him. So definitely, I'm sure some in the locker room, if they had their feelings about him already, they're going to feel it even further. Something tells me here it's going to be very lively here over the next hour. So let's get to it. And without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, pro wrestling star here for Non-Stop Action Wrestling. That's Connor Cage. Connor, how you doing?
I've definitely not that before. Thank you very much, Tom. It's great to be here.
I hope you're happy with that because for whatever reason, it's the NBA draft here later on here this evening. And for whatever reason, I'm thinking about there was the public address announcer for the New York Knicks, and he used to famously announce the players almost exactly how I did. But obviously, that's here nor there. But in a lot of ways, you kind of are, in a way, like the number one draft pick, quote unquote, to this Non-Stop Action Wrestling 8-person Fire and Gold Non-Stop Action World Class Title Tournament Championship. We'll get into all of that here. And certainly I've got some comments already from competitors and definitely different people that you know very well. But I have to break it here because we have some breaking news here, Connor. In fact, I'm sure more in the locker room are going to certainly view you continued in what they've been feeling here on Sportzwire Radio and elsewhere because I've been given word from management over at GT Ministries at the upcoming July the 16th 30-person Rumble there to crown the number one contender to Jack Johnson's World Championship that Connor Cage, you're going to be a participant. So if there was those in the locker room, like a Dante Okara, a Disciple, or anybody else that was feeling the heat towards you, you just wait till they hear this. So, Connor, you got to give me your reactions because you very well could be a world champion in September in not one but 2 companies. So walk me through your thoughts on what it means to be a part of the GT Ministries 30-person Rumble on July the 16th to crown the number one contender to Jack Johnson's championship.
It's honestly really humbling from where I started to get to this point, and this would be my second chance at GTM. To be honest, it's just not only it's not only representing myself, but also NSAW itself. It's just crazy to me. I can't come up with the words for it, honestly.
Well, you're gonna have to figure out something because you're gonna be here July the 16th, and I'll get to some comments here in a second from obviously competitors and maybe friends of yours. But, I mean, do you feel pressure now that not only are you one of the first participants announced for GTM, but obviously for Non-Stop Action Wrestling to be in that 8-person tournament? I mean, do you feel pressure in a lot of ways now because of this? I mean, was it any added to this? I mean, walk me through your thoughts on that.
Well, of course, there's a lot of pressure because they're not only representing myself as a NSA, but also everybody that's looked up, like believed in me up to now, like family, friends, trainers, trainees. That's a hell of a lot to put onto someone. But I think I'm ready for it. I think I've been dedicated to this since day one, and I think I have just as much of a chance than anybody there, to be honest.
Does that motivate you in a sense? Because sometimes I interview a lot of different people, right? Not just in wrestling, but in all walks of life. And sometimes I hear that it actually motivates the individual. So you know what? I've got all this pressure, but now it makes me want to rise to the occasion. It makes me think, okay, now I can do as much as I can to get to where I need to be. Does that give you maybe extra motivation to do what you need to do out there in the ring to be successful?
Definitely. Like if you want to get anywhere, you have to go against the best. You have to go against the biggest challenges. To go against the odds. Like, how else are you going to succeed? Like, so I'd say throw as much as you can at me, to be honest.
Well, we'll certainly find out. Coming up here, first step is now July the 16th. So we're going to recap it for those that are just coming in here on Sportzwire Radio that Conor Cage is now a participant in the 30-person Rumble here, representing nonstop action wrestling here. We're going to certainly have a big contingency, I am sure, from nonstop action wrestling in this 30-person Rumble that GT Ministries is having to crown the #1 contender to Jack Johnson's World Championship, and that #1 contender will get that shot coming up here at the September show at the Fountains Church in Bradford. So let me get to some comments here. First, let me get to somebody that has definitely been speaking about you quite a bit. You might know him. His name is Dante O'Cara. Dante O'Cara says, "Don't forget who made you, Golden Boy, up the swarm." Your response now to Mr. O'Cara.
Dante O'Cara, like, honestly, the only thing I could say about Dante O'Cara is I think we're just total opposites, to be honest. Like, there's no limits to what Dante O'Cara will do. Well, I think you have to set limits to yourself. You have to, and I think he can't stand that. Like, I don't have to go to his methods to get a win. And if I won against JPR that day on Summertime Slaughterhouse, that would prove everything. Like, he wouldn't be able to stand that, and I know he couldn't. I hope that makes sense.
No, certainly. I mean, obviously, listen. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, and we're gonna definitely get to JPR because I have an announcement related to JPR in a little while for sure. So we'll definitely recap that match and kind of how we got to where we are right now. But let me get to some other comments in here, and we have here somebody defending you, and he says, "Oh, Dante, bugger off. This ain't about you. Stop trying to hop on his spotlight." So, and he also further goes and says, "Congrats, Conor." And we have here James Westy says it's Conor Cage. So I guess that's just Conor Cage in bold. Colin McGregor, want to give a huge shout out to Colin because Colin was with us on Monday's show. He also does some work, and a great work, a lot of it he does for CCW, Coloring Championship Wrestling, because he is one of their commentators going to be on the call for their show June the 25th in Cole, not Dole. And somebody that I'm sure you're going to want to hear from here in a second, that is Richard Knights, and it says, "It appears the Golden Boy is going far. We will all be watching, Conor." Your response is to somebody in management and Richard Knights. What would you like to say to Mr. Knights?
I appreciate that, Richard Knights. I truly do. I'm sure you're hoping your boys in the society will make the faces known at the tournament as well. And I actually wouldn't mind that, to be honest. Cause
oh, you wouldn't? Really?
No.
Why do you say that for? Because I think we're all kind of surprised that you said that just now.
I know, like, why would I want to go against the undefeated Kyle Kennedy or Ray?
Well, I kind of have a soft spot for the undefeated, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. And speaking of the lawman Kyle Kennedy, because you certainly read my mind. I got some comments from other foes of yours in a second. So certainly the bees are coming out the swarm for you, Mr. Conor Cage. But the lawman Kyle Kennedy says, you know what? It'll be nice for once. If it's not me, I'm glad it's you. So I guess the lawman Kyle Kennedy gave me a comment that I wasn't expecting, I guess. So what do you say to that?
That's really perplexing now. Like, I really did not expect that.
Do you think there's a plan there maybe for the lawman Kyle Kennedy? Is there some plan he has up his sleeve, you think? Because he's coming on here Sunday night, by the way. The lawman Kyle Kennedy is with us this Sunday, so he might have something to say toward that.
I think there's always a plan, to be honest. I think that's all. So, yeah, that's gonna be difficult to plan around, to be honest. But
okay,
well, like I said, I'm got to fighting anyone, to be honest, at this point.
All right. Well, let me get let me get back to Mr. O'Cara, and I've got some other comments in here. Disciple, somebody related to Disciple is definitely in the house. I want to get to him because I want to get to him. But Mr. O'Cara says NSAW management handing all the opportunities to Connor Cage. Where are the rest of the opportunities? Now, this has been a common theme towards you. And Mr. Snow's with us also. I'll get to him in a few minutes. But that has been the gripe from some in the locker room. This is your chance now to address that. You're here for the first time on Sportzwire Radio. What's your thoughts on that?
I've never seen it that way. I'm not the one in the main events or on the posters, to be honest. And I've been Dante O'Cara's known me since the very beginning that I started training, and he knows that's not true. So I really don't understand that, to be honest. I've not had I've not had JPR and Tyler Murphy behind me to push me on, or Richard Knight's in my corner to get me a position. So I just don't understand it personally.
Did you do something to somebody in the back maybe that caused this maybe animosity? I'm curious.
Towards Dante, to be honest, I thought we were friends even before the match against JPR. Like he would introduce me to his partner. We talked about things he wanted to do in wrestling. And I thought he had all the potential in the world, to be honest. But then, obviously, he was willing to throw that all away for an opportunity. And I guess that's just something I can't do myself.
So that's where you think you differentiate yourself with, let's say, Dante and yourself.
I would say so, yes. But if he thinks that he can walk over me for an opportunity, then he's got another thing coming.
All right, well, we'll certainly find out here. But let me get to somebody that I've gotten to know a little bit here. And this individual might or might not be related to somebody that's become one of my favorites that I know certainly had a lot to say about shit. And that is Disciple. And Disciple, I'm going to say it here. I don't know if Mr. Angel's watching this. I don't know if GTM management is watching this. I know Mr. Snow is definitely watching because I have a comment from Mr. Snow, a few of them. But Disciple definitely should be there at the Fountains Church July 16th. I'm going to go on the record saying it. And then next Thursday in this slot, right before world champion boxer Paul Pierce, Disciple's going to be here. And what this individual has to say here says, Disciple professional wrestlers always watching. I'm glad that the management of Nonstop Action Wrestling are too. Sort of a interesting comment there. You have any responses to that? Also, do you want to respond to what Disciple has had to say from you on last week's show?
Of course. I found his reaction really confusing, to be honest, because he knows it was picked at random. He knows that he knows I've been here since the beginning. And the fact that he considers that he thinks actually, I was more insulted by the idea that he thinks I suck up to management to get where I am is the most insulting, because I've been here since the beginning, and I'm the first one that's in the building and the last one that leaves, from working the ring to wrestling. Like, I don't just show up at pay-per-views and have a match and leave. I'm there. I'm the one that's there. So I really don't. Sorry, I'm just sorry if I'm not.
Let me ask you though, because Disciple has obviously been a world champion. He's been a main eventer in other promotions. He's been a guy that's defeated the likes of the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, who just won the Wrestle Island World Championship for a few minutes. He's defeated the likes of the Ronin, Brian Adenson. He's also was a main eventer at GTM earlier this year against Bentley, who competed for 2 world championships. Are you saying that Disciple is a guy that just shows up, collects his paycheck, beats up the people because he's a main event guy? He's been in the business a long time, obviously. Are you saying that you're a little different from, let's say, a Disciple, where you show up, let's say, 3-4 hours before the doors open, you set the ring up, you tear the thing back down, and do everything needed to be there? Is that what you're maybe saying? What you're doing and what maybe Disciple's doing?
I think he's lost that aspect where he thinks he talks about as if no one else is putting in the effort and pushing themselves to get to that point that he's at currently, and I honestly think I have every chance in this, Roberta. Anything can happen. It only takes 3 seconds, no matter what, for a pin, to hold a shoulder down for 3 seconds, to submit somebody.
I'll give you that. That's a good point. But let me ask you this question. I've got a ton of comments in here, but I got to almost differentiate yourself. But let me ask you a question, though. Let me ask you a hypothetical. And I got Mr. Snow in there. I got to get to people. I will. I promise you. I'll get to your comments in a second. But let me ask you, though. Let's say, though, you were management, right? You had that opportunity. Conor Cage is in management. I'm going to let you be the guy to make the choice. Would you have selected yourself as the first participant announced in the Non-Stop Action Wrestling 8-person tournament, August the 13th, Fire and Gold, to crown the company's first ever world-class champion? Would you have done that same decision?
That's actually a pretty difficult one because there are so many people that could possibly be chosen. But why not? I don't see why I would.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you what. I mean, certainly, they used to call Oscar De La Hoya the Golden Boy, but maybe Conor Cage is the Golden Boy. I mean, certainly, I hope you have as good a luck with the ladies as Oscar De La Hoya did. That's all I'll say outside the ring. But let me get to some more comments, and I promise I get to Mr. Snow. Mr. Snow says there is a reason that you are representing us in GTM and Non-Stop Action Wrestling Fire and Gold. You have what it takes to prove to everyone just how good you are. When you see that from Mr. Snow, now he had a lot to say about you on last week's show. He has a lot of faith in you. He said, listen, and he wasn't even going to tell us you were the first person. We were going to just wait and wait and wait like everybody else. When you see that from Mr. Snow, and after what he said last week, what does Mr. Snow mean to you in terms of giving you this opportunity?
What does he mean to me in terms of giving him this
giving
opportunity?
you this opportunity? Because you can make the case Mr. Snow's announcement very well could have led to Mr. Angel announcing you in the GTM 30-person Rumble. Very well make that case. Because of Mr. Snow's announcement, it led maybe Mr. Angel to say, you know what? Conor Cage, maybe he really is this guy that can go. Look at what he did with JPR. JPR is fighting for the UKW championship not too long ago. That's Mustafa Khan. And look at what Mustafa Khan saw himself run to from Jack Johnson. Maybe Mr. Angel said, you know what? I got to give this guy a shot because of what Mr. Snow said about you last week. Can you make that case?
I think you could make that case. It's possible. I'm not in the mind of Gareth Angel, that's for sure. But
no, I don't think anybody's in his mind right
now. I'm incredibly thankful for the opportunity, and it's just I fully intend to take full advantage of it. Sorry, I'm just.
I know it's a lot of emotions right now because obviously not only do you have Mr. Snow to make proud and to make him look good, you got Gareth Angel. And Gareth Angel right now, the mood he's in the wrestling world after what Jack Johnson did, taking away his championship, and certainly Mr. Angel, he's a big deal. I mean, so the fact that you have to now make Joshua Snow look good, but now Gareth Angel look good, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. I can understand that. Listen, I can definitely understand that. I speak with people all the time, whether it's politicians, athletes, wrestlers like yourself, and you got a lot of pressure on you right now. There's no question that the knives are out for Conor Cage right now.
Trust me, like I've been to GTM. I've seen them perform. I know the competition. I know the dedication of people in the other members of NSA as well. Like that is incredibly daunting, but it is a Rumble after all, and literally anything can happen.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
the very fact someone like Jack Johnson is champion is proof of that, I would say.
And how about what he listen? I'm still trying to get over the fact he literally annihilated Mustafa Khan. I mean, he annihilated him. I mean, I was speaking with wrestlers in GTM and other companies, and I said, "Did you see what Jack Johnson did to Mustafa Khan?" And wrestlers told me, I don't want to name their names. They were like, "What just happened?" People were stunned. So right now, Jack Johnson, the fact that he got past Bentley, Gareth Angel, Mustafa Khan consecutively, people are stunned by it, no matter how he did it. Let me get to some further comments because I'm behind here. Obviously, an individual here says Connor's not scared of fill in the blanks. So that's certainly, I think, what some are going to say. Jenny Hayes, huge shout out to Jenny Hayes, who's going to be joining us here in the future. Says, you're definitely a shining beacon for nonstop action wrestling. Connor Cage, the only and only, no one can do it like you. You set the standard. And also, we have here, Connor's just better and Dante's salty. It's kind of what you just said. And Mr. O'Cara responds. He says, coming after that other arm, Golden Boy. So he wants the other arm. He's hungry for that other arm of yours.
I learned from my mistakes, so we're going to have to wait and see for that.
Well, we'll find out for sure. And Mr. Snow says, don't worry about Dante, Connor. You've already defeated him and Tyler Murphy. What would your dream opponents be? Whether they've been people you've already faced or someone new? Good question, because you know what? That was something I was going to ask you in a little while. So I'm glad that Mr. Snow's doing my job. So thank you, Mr. Snow, for that. So who would you like to face, and who was your dream opponents currently?
Would that be in NSA or in general?
If you want to do both, either or. I mean, you tell me.
There is someone I've seen in the local scene that I've been watching a while. Jester Jero from UKW.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I feel like he's got. Well, I feel like he's very similar in the aspect like we're both similar sizes, and I feel like I could learn something a lot. Like win or lose, I feel like I could. I want to face people I feel I can learn something from or gain something from. So that'd be really interesting, I would say. Or in NSAW, well, a bit crazy, but I think I'll go for Goliath there.
I was expecting like Gung Ho Muttley or something like that. You just basically went out there and said Goliath. Wow, Goliath. I mean, okay, boy. I tell you what, maybe they call you the Golden Boy for a reason here. I mean, Connor is one of the most hardworking guys in nonstop action wrestling. It's why he's getting opportunities. I don't think that's what Dante understands. That certainly very well could be a fair point. Mr. Cage, people will come after you when you have talent. The more people dislike you, the better you do. And, you know, that is a fair point from Mr. Knights and Match, because I have noticed that when you do well or you're perceived to be doing well, people don't like that. There's a lot of jealousy out there in the world. Because I definitely, I see all that here. And certainly, why not with a question mark? I'm not quite sure what that's referring to, but I'm a few minutes behind, so who knows, right? And Jenny says, Connor is there for every training session and he works hard. I mean, what does that mean to you to be at every session and to be there no matter what? Rain, snow, sleet, sunshine, you name it, you're there. I mean, what does that mean to you?
Because I feel like I think that means a lot. I feel like that means a lot. So I want to be the hardest working person in the room, like all the time, like in the ring or outside of it. Might not physically show at the moment, but I've like Disciple was talking about how he's always asking for advice or working towards something, always improving. I feel like I try and embody that aspect as well and that mindset, because and I think I've only missed one session, to be honest. And
wow.
I've been there. Oh, that was because
I'm sure there was a good reason why you missed the one session, right? I'm sure it was.
My girlfriend sprained her leg pretty badly.
Oh,
so,
well, that's a fair point. I think we can give you an excuse for that. If your girlfriend sprained her leg, I think that's certainly a good reason as to why you might have missed it. So I can't hold that against you. So those are definitely some valid points. I got a bunch of comments in here still, and let me get to Dante O'Cara says here, you want to fight the big man, your funeral, Golden Boy. Yeah, I'm a little bit kind of perplexed as to why you chose Goliath, because certainly, that was my point. And I want to give a shout out also to Taylor Truth over at CCW, because he does a great job in terms of ring announcing and other things at CCW. And he says, who's this chap then? Well, do you want to introduce yourself for outside wrestling companies like Colory Championship Wrestling? I mean, introduce yourself before I get to more comments from the gang.
Well, I'm Connor Cage, current member of Non-Stop Action Wrestling, and the first one announced for the Gold Rush tournament that's coming up. And also in the GTM, GT Ministries Ready to Rumble match. So that should be a lot of fun, to be honest.
I'm looking forward to that. So certainly, I do have another comment here I want to get to, again, from an individual that certainly has become a fan of mine, and I like him too. So certainly, he says here, who are your inspirations in wrestling, and who would you base yourself? That's a great question, because, again, everyone's doing my work for me, because that's the question I always ask on Sportzwire Radio. I like to know that, because you are a very good wrestler. All kidding aside, watching some of your stuff on Instagram and some clips, obviously seeing what the company has here on its YouTube page. Again, NSAW Official, if you like what you hear from Nonstop Action Wrestling on Instagram, and also Facebook Nonstop Action Wrestling. But Connor, I mean, who are your inspirations in wrestling, and who would you base your style off? And something tells me it's not Disciple.
as good as Disciple is, I'd say my inspirations, I guess I have a few, but I'd say Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan.
Well, I'll tell you one thing when it comes to Chris Jericho, and I'm watching Chris Jericho last night, my time, for AEW, and I'm saying to myself, I was watching Chris Jericho when I was like a little kid, and he's still in there, and he's still in these crazy matches. He's in the main event last night over at AEW, and he's got to be, I don't know, like 51 now. So if your inspiration or basing your style off Chris Jericho, I got to say, Connor, you're going to have a long career in the business, because Chris Jericho, I mean, he's the definition of a chameleon. I don't think there's, in some ways, I heard this on the Broken Skull Sessions podcast he did with Stone Cold. This was, I think, late last year. I mean, he might not be the greatest draw in wrestling history. He might have the most championships, but in terms of like his overall relevance, he has had probably the greatest career in wrestling history, because he's been relevant for 25 years straight in some form. So if you're going to do what he does, maybe I see why Mr. Snow picked you and Mr. Angel picked you. So let me get to some other comments in here. Let me get to an individual that certainly we might know related to an individual. Says, should you make it to the final and win, would there be a perfect dream opponent for you to defeat in the final for the world-class championship?
There's so many different people that could be that have that potential. But that's the word potential. Perfect. Gung Ho would be one. I feel like I have something to prove. Disciple would be pretty fun to prove that.
I tell you what, you read my mind, because I would love to see Disciple and you in the ring, but maybe I could throw it out there. What about you and the wild card Tommy Dillon, who's basically the head trainer over at Nonstop Action Wrestling? What about you and Tommy Dillon? Because that would be an interesting match, right? I would have to think.
That would be some redemption for me in that situation, because I've answered his challenge in GTM before.
Oh, so I'm aware of that. That's why I wanted to bring that up for you. I mean, would you maybe like to get a redo in Nonstop Action Wrestling?
Oh, definitely. Like, everybody wants to face their trainer at some point and succeed. well, sorry, to to get that chance, I think it would be an honor, to be honest.
And I think with Tommy Dillon, there's also something to prove because of just his story, hearing what he had to say, hearing what he means to you and the rest of the locker room. I mean, what does he mean to you outside the ring? Because I have to feel like in a lot of ways, he is in some way or another, whether he admits it or not, he is kind of like the locker room leader in nonstop action wrestling.
I think he's somebody who has always held himself to his principles in wrestling and outside of it. And I've always admired how dedicated he is, not only to the business, but to everybody who's attended. Not many people would train people that could be potential opponents in the future.
Absolutely. No, I mean, you got to give him a lot of credit for that. So I definitely don't disagree there. And Taylor Truth says, and Taylor Truth's going to follow you now. He's going to give you I guess a friend request on Facebook because he likes what he's hearing from you. So we love CCW because June the 25th is Saturday. They have their own show, Cole Not Dull, 9th straight sellout for CCW. If you like what you hear from CCW, I highly encourage you give them a like on Facebook and a follow at Colory Championship Wrestling, over 4,000 members on their page. And, of course, Nonstop Action Wrestling and CCW have worked together in the past, and I'm sure they'll continue to work together with the Working Class Militia. We see here Connor Cage, inaugural World Class Champion. You might be. I mean, you have a chance. You technically have a 1 in 8 chance, so I have to give you a chance. You definitely do have a chance, so there's no question that you have a chance. But we have here another good question. What are your career goals?
Career goals. I don't like to long-term plan. I like to I tend to go more short-term goals towards things. Like some people think, oh, I want to go to New Japan straight away, or I want to WWE for I just want to be the kind of I just want to be in whatever match I'm in, to know that I did everything I could, no matter what. That's what I want to do in my career, to be honest. I want to look back on it and know. Thank you. I want to know. I want to look back and think I did everything I could have possibly done here in this moment. I guess, like no matter where I end up.
You know, that reminds me of something that very humble, very modest. It reminds me of something when I was in high school, my economics teacher used to say. It kind of relates to this. He would say, well, long as at the end of the day, I have enough money in my pocket to be able to go eat. That's kind of what you're basically telling us. You just want to be able to go out there, do the best you can. You'll worry about all that stuff down the road. I mean, there's some people come on here and say, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. But you're definitely different. And let me do one here for Taylor Truth before I get to some other comments in here. And I think you'll appreciate this. So I'm going to do it for you because I can do it. The following contest is scheduled for one fall involving one Connor Cage. That was for you, Taylor Truth. Hopefully we'll do that for you again next time when CCW is here. And Dante O'Cara is back in the house. Got to make sure we get from him. He says, wait, what do you mean by earlier you would have beat JPR if the Swarm didn't get involved? Everyone saw you slipped. Me and Tyler Murphy did nothing.
I think we all know the cameras were there, Dante O'Cara, but if you consider sending me crotch first into a ring post as nothing, then it certainly didn't feel like nothing, that's for sure.
Do you want to respond also to the fact of Mr. O'Cara's trouble with the old school MC2 challenge?
I heard about that. I wasn't there in person to see the match, but I certainly complained a lot backstage after that, to be honest.
I thought maybe you might want to respond to that because something tells me here Mr. O'Cara is going to be with us in the near and distant future on Sportzwire Radio. So I wanted to give you an opportunity maybe to throw it back a little bit at Mr. O'Cara.
Oh, yeah, he lost in like a minute against old school MC2.
Yeah, and who's not even apparently in the ring now for the foreseeable future.
He's pretty tough, so I'd imagine he would come back at some point. He's kind of crazy that way, I suppose. But
that's why they call him old school.
True, the old school mentality for sure. Right.
All right, so certainly those are some other comments in here. Let me get to some others. Let me get to somebody from GTM, also an up-and-coming star here, and that's Pride. Pride, who we saw here at one of the more recent shows, says, "We've seen you fight. You have heart. Pride hopes you don't get turned into paste in the Rumble, given some of the absolute monsters also in attendance." Which some of those monsters, I'm going to let you in on something for everybody listening and watching. We're going to be breaking some of those names coming up here between now and the next few weeks. So something tells me here, Connor, you're going to probably want to tune in and hear some of those names, because some of those names, you might have an idea of who they are. So that's all I'm going to give is a little clue. So you might know some of these names. So you might want to hear some of these interviews coming up here over the next few weeks on Sportzwire Radio. Let me get to the wildcard Tommy Dillon, who was also with us last weekend. Wildcard Tommy Dillon chimes in here and says, "I hope we do meet again someday. You almost had me, and I truly believe you, and I will be fighting over gold in the future." So he believes that you and him, maybe you guys will be fighting in the finals for the Non-Stop Action Wrestling World Class Tournament Championship. I mean, would that be something you'd want, Tommy Dillon in the finals?
Definitely. I know Tommy Dillon will never hold back on me either, so I can't. I look forward to that, no matter if it's at the tournament or any other time. I really look forward to that.
And you feel like Tommy Dillon would do it fair and square as well, right?
I think he could, yeah.
Because I think he's honest. He's reputable. He's somebody that he wants to just do it the right way. Very similar to you. You and him maybe have that similarity in that sense. At least in Non-Stop Action Wrestling.
Yeah, he's not very happy with the Bradford crowd over there, to be honest.
Well, for whatever reason, he made a good point. He says that he's the same person, but for whatever reason in Bradford, they don't seem to get where he's coming from. Do you think that's a valid point?
I guess so. Bradford crowds are always going to be honest with what they think of you. So
yeah, they're definitely different. I've noticed the Bradford crowd is definitely different. I don't know, maybe if Mr. Angel tells them what to say or how to cheer. I don't know what it is, but I mean, certainly that is that. Let me ask you a question. I mean, what has it meant to you to wrestle in GT Ministries? I have to ask because obviously they do a lot of work with us, and obviously, I have a relationship with Mr. Angel, and I'd like to at least give them that recognition. I mean, what has it meant to you to wrestle in GT Ministries?
I think it's been quite overwhelming, to be honest, to even get the chance to wrestle there. I think that even shows when before the match I stood on the ring and I was kind of looking out to the crowd, and in that moment I was just lost in that moment. Then I turned around and got clotheslined by Tommy Dillon. So
watching Tommy Dillon and some of his work in GTM and obviously UKW, I know that hurt. That definitely hurt. Right? That Tommy Dillon clothesline, definitely, he didn't go easy on you. That I can promise you.
Oh, well, I should have known. I should have expected better. I trained under him. I should have known.
Let me ask you, though, when it comes to Mr. Angel, and I don't know what the relationship you have maybe outside the ring with him, but you ever ask him for advice or you ever speak with him? Because here's a guy that's wrestled on BBC. He's been in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, he's probably, I would say it's him and RPD that are probably the two biggest draws that I know of in UK professional wrestling. I've spoke with person. I think it's him and RP Davis for different reasons. I mean, you ever ask him for advice or different things outside the ring in terms of his success and maybe apply it to your career, things like that?
I haven't actually thought of that, to be honest. I've talked very briefly. I talked to him after my match and I thanked him for the opportunity. I haven't had that. I haven't asked him for advice, to be honest. I think, yeah, I should have done that, to be honest. I might take that into account next
Oh,
time.
I'm glad that I can help you point in that direction. I know Mr. Angel will be very happy to hear that. I can promise you that he'll be very happy to hear that. So, Taylor Chutes loved my one-match thing intro. And Dante comes back here and says, I'm an honest man. I respect you, Golden Boy. But do I like you? Maybe. Can I beat you in between the ropes? Yes, I can. You got lucky. No response to Mr. O'Carroll.
I think that's kind of funny, like especially considering Dante came up with the Golden Boy name. That chant kind of backfired on him a little bit, I think. But we'll just have to wait and see. To be honest, Dante, you got a chip on your shoulder, and you think you can take my position, and I'm not moving. So we just have to see what happens from there. Then I guess.
Can I ask a question? This is a stupid question, and I'm sure I'm going to get ringed for this. But is Dante really from Los Angeles? Like, is he from Hollywood? Does he have like Hollywood connections?
No.
But it says on his Facebook he's from Los Angeles, California. And I was like, wow, he really must be in high demand if he's from Los Angeles.
No, not as far as I know.
I knew that would break the ice. And I also want to give a shout out to somebody watching over from CCW because we love CCW on Sportswire Radio, and I know that CCW has great relationships with Nonstop Action Wrestling and GT Ministries, and we love that companies work together. And that is Uncle Ralph, of course. He is from Top Tier, and Uncle Ralph is the man. Everybody loves Uncle Ralph from CCW, so I'm sure you would love Uncle Ralph too, and he's checked in here, so thank you for Uncle Ralph tuning in. Dante O'Carroll says, give me 2 out of 3 falls. I'll get that win. But why not 1 out of 1 falls? I mean, 1 out of 1. I would just think 1, right?
I'm really not sure what he's hoping for that, to be honest.
And let me also bring in here the man that you were last in the ring with over at Nonstop Action Wrestling, the Summertime Slaughterhouse. You might know who this is, and his name is JPR. And he says here, Swarm. So, you want to say anything to your opponent last time we saw you in the ring over at Nonstop Action Wrestling?
I had you, and you know that. So I think that's all I really need to say, to be honest. So I look forward to another chance, to be honest. Maybe not, but a little bit less of Dante O'Carroll and Tyler Murphy.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to have him on here in a couple of weeks, July the 12th. So I'm going to get his side of the story on this. I mean, certainly, I'm sure JPR is going to definitely want to talk about this much more. And if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, I highly encourage that you do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Also, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you like all of our content, you can listen anytime on sportnarium.com/player, where we play music, we play talk, we play our live shows like we're playing right now, and everything else in between. And of course, I'm the station manager for it. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. We're also on Roku on the Northeast Streaming Sports channel. So I want to thank Linda and Mac McGrath for that opportunity. I also want to thank the group over at ProZone Gaming for giving us sponsorship and affiliates. I want to thank them also for their support, their friendship. I want to make sure that everybody follows the ProZone Gaming Division, ProZone GD on Twitter and Instagram, hashtag PZGD, also FNSTYYXP. That's FNTSYXP for the 3-day, 2-night beach retreat in May 2023 in Santa Ana, California. So I guess maybe Dante O'Carroll lives not too far from it because it says on his Facebook he's from Los Angeles, California. So I guess maybe he'll be there. I guess I'll meet him there. And this retreat is great because all gamers, content creators, everybody else in between is invited. We've got theme nights, sandy cheeks, bonfires, who knows what else. Bring your friends or community, new ones to come with. So you can do all of that here. More details over at Prozone GD on Instagram, Twitter. PZGD is the hashtag. So make sure that you follow and do all the great things here. And make sure you follow also Mr. Big Soup on Twitter and Instagram as well. So he is the man behind Prozone Naming Division. I want to thank him for all the great things that he is doing. So we are speaking with pro wrestling star here, Connor Cage. Now, just days before his appearance in the GT Ministries 30-person Rumble to crown the #1 contender to Jack Johnson's World Championship, you'll also see him in the ring August the 13th at the next Non-Stop Action Wrestling Fire and Gold event here, the 8-person tournament to crown the company's first ever world-class champion. It is going to be a very, very busy next month for Connor Cage. Connor, I wanted to ask you this question here, and I think I should probably ask it because I've spoke a lot about Non-Stop Action Wrestling, but what does Non-Stop Action Wrestling mean to you?
It represents a lot of things, to be honest. It's a place I started off. It's a place that started from Connor Calder to Connor Cage, the wrestler. It's where I started from. It's where I hope to build my craft in this in wrestling. It means an incredible amount to me, and I just hope I can repay everything they've given me in return.
Well, we're going to find out here come July the 16th and August the 13th. Certainly, we're going to find out how you're going to repay them, I'm sure, with some success in the ring. And I almost have to ask you, I mean, are you related to Christian Cage at all? Because there's a Christian Cage. I mean, are you like the offspring of Christian Cage?
I'm a big fan of Christian Cage, but the name was actually an idea from a friend of mine way before NSAW, and it just kind of stuck, to be honest, and I just kind of went with it, and I take everything I've been influenced by and just go from there, I suppose.
So you're not an offspring. You're not Christian Cage's son then.
Although there's a lot of pages like Ethan Page, Adam Page, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. There's loads of them as well. So
Yeah, I thought about that. But Diamond Dallas Page, although he's in phenomenal shape, he would be like your grandfather, like your great grandfather. Christian Cage would make sense. He would make sense to be your father for whatever reason. I could see maybe like some resemblances, but that's here nor there. So obviously, those are things that I'm sure that we'll figure out now, and certainly, I'm sure a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people don't want to hear whether about you and Christian Cage are related, but certainly, I thought it was kind of a fun question to ask him. I wanted to ask you then. I mean, who would you like to see? In terms of who else would be in this tournament for Non-Stop Action Wrestling? I mean, I know we spoke a little bit about GTM, but like, is there any inkling of like who else you'd like to see in the tournament?
Ooh, that's a good question. What about some members of the Academy of Agony? Could be interesting. That could be
Mad Ed, I mean, you Mad Ed and Gung Ho. I mean, Gung Ho we kind of spoke about. So Gung Ho's been with us a couple of times. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of a numbers game lately, hasn't it? It's like the Academy of Agony, the Guardians, the Society. Yeah. So I'm
surprised nobody's mentioned Remus Kane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be really interesting, to be honest. Like taking out any member of the society, but the leader.
Well, I said it here. I'm sure you heard, but you could actually have society member versus society member. I've said it here on the air a couple different times. What does the society do then?
Oh, They always act like they have this higher purpose to everything they do, but I think when it comes down to it, they're not going to hold back from each other. They're gonna want that gold. So that's what I anticipate anyway. But you never know with those guys.
No, you never know. You definitely never know. I mean, certainly we'll figure that out here for sure, to say the least. And speaking of the lawman Kyle Kennedy. He says here, question, Mr. Cage, do you think you're worthy all this hype, all these opportunities in such a short time. I personally don't see the hype, nor think you're deserving. But hey, that's just my opinion. And also, we've been reminded by the lawman Kyle Kennedy right now. He is undefeated. He's 4-0. So right now, he's the next Goldberg. He's the next Ryback, next Ultimate Warrior, next MJF. I mean, he is undefeated right now. I mean, what's your response to the lawman Kyle Kennedy?
He's been Kyle. We've known each other since we started, and I've been in your position. I even joined the Academy of Agony for a while, but the difference between you and me is I'm just not willing to go to your lengths, and that does not make me weak, and that does not mean that you can walk over me, and that does not mean you deserve this opportunity more than me. And that's for damn certain.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen here, certainly the lawman Kyle Kennedy Sunday night, I'm sure, is going to respond to that in due kind. And Pride is with us here, and every time Pride hears of the works of the society, it fills us with a deep unease and anger. Will you be able to take them down one-on-one? Do they fight one-on-one? Champ Rogers, they didn't fight one-on-one technically with him. They beat him up right afterwards, and he was out for quite a while. I mean, so.
Well, even his wife couldn't help him in that situation, fortunately. So.
The patriarch with the super dad bottom is.
I mean, I think Kyle Kennedy escaped a wrath worse than Champ Rogers there, to be honest. So I think he got a bit lucky. Sorry, what was the question?
Will you be able to take the society down one-on-one, or do they fight one-on-one and use the numbers game to their advantage? That's the question.
Yeah, there's often a numbers game. Even if they don't do anything on the outside of the ring, when you're thinking of the people on the outside of the ring, you can't focus on what's going on inside. So that's a very big factor for anyone to deal with, to be honest. So,
let me ask you this question here. We've got about maybe 10 or 15 minutes with pro wrestling star here, Connor Cage of Nonstop Action Wrestling and G2 Ministries. And right afterwards, we're going to have more wrestling talk because young Horus is going to be with us. I know young Horus is supposed to be with us now, but we'll get him here in about 10 or so minutes. And young Horus is going to have a lot to say, I'm sure. He always has a lot to say. Certainly, he has been a competitor all over the place. In fact, do you want to say anything for us about young Horus? Anything we can expect from young Horus here when we get him in about 10 or so minutes?
I don't know him that well, so I don't think I've had a conversation with him, to be honest. But if there's one thing for sure, if there's anyone that's never going to give up, he'll be young Horus. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say about everything, to be honest, as well.
Do you and him have those kind of similarities where, you fight the fair fight, you do the right things, and you just keep going out there? Maybe there's some similarities between you and him in that sense?
I think so, yeah. I would say so, for sure.
All right.
I don't know what he'll say about it, but it's up to him.
I'm going to find out. I'll tell you what. I mean, he called me out on Facebook. I don't know if he was just being facetious or he was just really excited to be on. Who knows? You never know with people. You never know what people's mood are in. Certainly, I deal with that all the time here. But let me give the lawman Kyle Kennedy a response here. Excuse me, Mr. Bryce. Be nice there, sir. I'll have you know I had Champ beat from bell to bell. How dare you assume I needed the society? I thought better of you, Thomas. Well, the lawman Kyle Kennedy, we're getting you this Sunday coming up at 8 o'clock. So prove me wrong, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. The lawman Kyle Kennedy can definitely prove you wrong. You certainly, listen, I still like you. I don't know what I said. I mean, you did win. You are undefeated. You're 4-0. So, certainly, you are on your way to maybe being the next Goldberg. Who knows? Certainly, it's my world, my laws. But I'll get to the lawman Kyle Kennedy in a few minutes again. But I have some breaking news for you, Connor, that you might want to be curious of. The breaking news is that we're going to have fireworks on Sportzwire Radio because on July 4th, it might be Independence Day in America, but I'm not taking a day off because we're getting an exclusive here, worldwide here, for all of us. I guess he might be from Los Angeles, California. I'm not sure, but apparently Dante Okara is going to be in the house here on July 4th. So if you're in America, you're in New York, and you're having a barbecue, some fireworks, if you still have those, and you're having a nice time by the pool, you might want to tune in the evening, 6 o'clock British Standard Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, because I'll be speaking with Dante Okara. We'll be speaking a lot about the Swarm, a lot about you, I'm sure, and everything else related to nonstop action wrestling. So, Connor, I'm going to give you the floor then. Anything you'd like to say to Mr. Okara before we get to speak with him next Monday, July the 4th? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fireworks.
I'm going to be tuning into that headache, that's for sure.
Boy, you really bring the pain here. As Method Man would famously say, I bring the pain, I bring the pain, I bring the pain. You're definitely bringing the pain for Dante. So certainly, Dante, I guess we're going to be in for a treat with you then on Sportzwire Radio. And of course, Nonstop Action Official on Instagram. You can check that on their Facebook page as well. And Gareth Angel has also commented. I told you Mr. Angel was a fan of us here. He says, best of luck in the Rumble, young man.
Thank you, Gareth.
Would you be a little nervous being in the ring with Mr. Angel? Have you thought about that there? Being in with Mr. Angel, certainly. He's a very, very busy man, a very prominent man. I mean, we see him on BBC. He's been out there and wrestled hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, in fact, Disciple very well could have been the GT Ministries World Champion. He's supposed to be in the ring with Mr. Angel. I mean, Mr. Angel's a big deal. I mean, would that be a little nervous for you, being with Mr. Angel in the Rumble?
Oh, definitely. Like, the man's like been the face of GT Ministries for a long time now, so you don't get that kind of reputation for no reason.
No. Listen, he's a big deal, Mr. Angel. He's an important man. And Dante Okara says, for whatever reason, young Horus reminds me of Leo Libra.
Leo Libra? I'm not sure who Leo Libra is, to be honest.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll find out. I'll ask him that. But Mr. Okara says he thanks us for the opportunity and is looking forward to it. So we thank Mr. Okara for granting us, I guess, this opportunity. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy says, Dante, shut up, I think. The Lawman Kyle Kennedy is an interesting guy. He's an interesting individual. So certainly, the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, have you ever seen him make any laws, by the way?
Not that I'm aware of.
Why do they call him the Lawman, in your opinion?
I guess because he goes by his own rules, I suppose.
I see. That would make sense. So, I have another good question for you. In your opinion, who do you honestly think would be a great world champion for nonstop action wrestling? Great question for it, and I'm going to give you my answer. So, you go first.
A great champion. I don't want to just say me, because that'll be. I want to go for someone different. If someone apart from me, I guess I would say. What about Danny Loco? I think he's somebody I'll be really interested to see. I think he has all the potential to do that, to be honest, because the dude's like crazy, explosive, strong, fast. He has like everything you could possibly want in a wrestler, I think. Or Billy Dillon would be, I think, someone who embodies everything of NSAW. I think he would also be a great champ as well.
Well, Tommy Dillon, I'll say this, does have a great story in the fact that he hadn't been a champion in 5 years, and therefore winning the around the clock title again, and UKW starting his career out at 32, and basically kind of an underdog story, having some personal issues with his wife passing away. He would be a decent face of a champion, but I'm going to say it because I know what brings dollars. I know what puts butts in the seats. He's been a world champion before, and I'm going to be a homer, I know it, but Disciple would be a good champion because Disciple's been there. He's been a main eventer. He was in there with Bentley, and he was 1 second away. I think, from putting Bentley away. And I'm a Bentley guy. I mean, he was right there with Bentley. I know you were there at that show. I mean, he was right there with Bentley in the main event. And on top of that, I rattled off who he's defeated. The Playboy Prince, Lance Rivera, who was just the Wrestle Island champion. The Ronan Brian Ainson, who, by the way, is coming back to Sportzwire Radio. I mean, he's been in there with top guys. He's been a big draw. I mean, he's also an actor. He's also been a movie star. I mean, Disciple's the kind of guy, just like how they made Chris Jericho the first ever AEW champion. I mean, I'm just saying it. Disciple would be a good champion. I know you'd be a good champion too. There's some great picks, no question. Goliath you could throw in there. Tommy Dillon, the wild card. Maybe Dante O'Cara. Maybe the Lawman Kyle Kennedy. Who knows who else? But I would say that Disciple could definitely be the guy that could put some butts in the seats.
I don't actually doubt that, to be honest. Like you said, it just speaks for itself, to be honest. Everything he's achieved up to this point, and he lives up to the name, a disciple of wrestling, to be honest. So he really does embody that. So to be honest, I can't really dispute that too much.
I think he'd be a great champion. And in fact, I'll even go further because I'll ask young Horus this. I mean, Mr. Snow, I would have to think, Mr. Snow, if you're in the business of promoting, you're in the business of selling tickets. I mean, you got to put Disciple in this tournament. I mean, you heard him here last week. Look him up on YouTube. See who he's been in the ring with. He's been in the ring. Johnny Storm he's been in the ring with. I mean, all types of people. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy says, yeah, how about no? Because, well, he's going to say he wants to be the champion. Obviously, look, just like you're going to want to say it, just like anybody else. So I get it. Listen, I'm not going to knock him for that. And he says here, it's bad enough seeing Dante post on Facebook. Now we have to listen to him. Great. But you know that you're going to tune in and exactly want to hear him speak because he's going to have a lot to say, undoubtedly. He's going to have a lot to say. There's no question about it. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy don't like Dante O'Cara because he says, Dante, shut up, I beg you. So he's still telling him to shut up. So, and Dante tells everybody, eat your heart out. So Dante O'Cara, listen, he gets in it with everybody. I mean, he's almost, maybe he's the MJF of non-stop action wrestling. Who knows? You never know. But it has been a tremendous honor to have you. And obviously, Connor, you have definitely been somebody that I'm really, really intrigued to see what happens here. And I want to ask you a couple quick questions. The first thing is, what would it mean to you, first of all, July 16th, to win the GT Ministries 30-person rumble? What would that mean to you?
That would be like the biggest highlight of my career, to be honest. Especially with the talent I've seen there, to be honest. It's absolutely insane. So I think sorry, it's just hard to come up with words sometimes for this, to be honest. It's hard to it's almost hard to comprehend that it's actually happening, to be honest, you're actually there. That's often the case for me. The reality of it like hits you all at once. So it would mean absolutely everything to me, I would say.
Famously, there was a song, it's not quite a one-hit wonder, it's one of a two-hit wonder band called Extreme, and the song was More Than Words. For you, I think winning the 30-person Rumble on July the 16th at the Fountain Church, it would be more than words to you and what it would mean. And conversely, August the 13th, let's say when the dust settles, what would it mean to you, Connor, if you're the first ever non-stop action wrestling world-class champion?
I think it would prove all the time I've put into this, all the sacrifice, the time, the effort, prove everybody that's doubted me so far. Like maybe it's a bit spiteful to think that way, to want to prove that to everybody, but that's honestly a big motivator. I know people look at me and they see I'm not the biggest guy, and I'm not height wise or weight wise and they look down upon that and think I'm just an easy target. But so that just makes it more of a challenge for me to push myself further as I possibly can, and winning that title would just be a culmination of everything I've worked towards, and there would be nothing like that feeling that possible in the world.
All right, so I can certainly see some of those points. And let me get to some more comments before we get to young Horus in a few minutes. So I'm sure most people will stay tuned for that. And Mr. Stroh says, I hear you, Tom Bryce. I hear you about Disciple. We have 7 spaces left. Do not forget. Yeah, but it's Disciple. It is Disciple. I would remind you, it is Disciple. He's a movie star. He's a main eventer. He's been a world champion. Look at the size of the man. So certainly, and Dante O'Cara says, MJF of Non-Stop Action Wrestling, I'll take the compliment. And certainly, somebody else says, MJF has actual talent. All Dante does is yap, 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 like a little mongrel dog. So certainly, Supersonic Sammy Blue. Gotta give a huge shout out to Supersonic Sammy Blue, who I'm going to get on. I promise I will get on Supersonic Sammy Blue. I will, in fact, get him on before July the 16th. He says, we stand, Connor, wishing you the best in the tournament, Golden Boy. And then the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, says, Sammy, go away. Dante says, finally, Kyle, we agree on something. So certainly, maybe the lawman and Kyle Kennedy and Dante O'Cara have a truce. And Kyle Kennedy says, I hope you lose. James says, I'm going to stay tuned to the Dante interview to listen to you, Tom. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you for your support. We'll definitely work on getting you on one of these days also, so I really appreciate that. But I want to ask you this question before I get to closing thoughts here, Connor. And what do you want to say to anybody that's watching or listening tonight that has supported you or is just hearing about you for the first time and why they should follow you? So what do you want to say to those two groups of people here tonight?
I would say of everything I've done so far, I've always strived towards being. Honestly, this is that's hard to put into. Sorry, it's I feel Sorry. What was that question again? Sorry, I'm just trying to comprehend.
What do you want to say to anybody that has supported you and has been a fan of yours, or to anybody that is hearing of you or watching of you the first time? What do you want to say to them in order for them to join you on your journey?
I think I would like to thank every single person who's supported me so far. It's been incredibly humbling to for all that support towards this point. I feel like I've done so much so far in my short amount of time. I've gone against Tommy Dillon. I've taken on JPR. I've shown up in GTM, Bolton Town, Non-Stop Action Wrestling, and it's been amazing representing Non-Stop Action Wrestling there. And I feel like this is just the beginning of Conor Cage's career, and I feel like I have so much more left in the tank to go, and I can't wait to experience every single moment.
And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we can't wait to be on this journey here with Conor Cage. And if you like what you hear from Conor Cage, we'll get to let him plug it also, but you can definitely follow him also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. He's Connor_Cage101 on Instagram, the Conor Cage on Twitter as well. And also like him on Facebook, give him a friend request. Also NSAW official on Instagram, Non-Stop Action Wrestling on Facebook, YouTube as well, because this is one of our favorite companies, and we love, regardless of the back and forth, we love everybody here in the locker room, everything that this company does, everything that these talent here do, because they are doing a great job, and Non-Stop Action Wrestling is doing a great job for all the great things that they are doing. And this is why we love professional wrestling. We love professional wrestling here in the UK. So, Connor, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I can't thank you enough here for this opportunity. The floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
I just want to thank you as well, Tom, for giving me this platform to talk and express everything I've talked about so far. And NSAW as well, of course, for everything. And I just honestly, I was more nervous for this interview than I'd almost willing to jump more into a ring.
Why were you so nervous for what? I mean, listen, the one man Cal Kennedy did. I mean, he says 1,000 things. I mean, almost everybody comes on at this point. This isn't root canal. I was more nervous when I had a root canal than this.
I suppose, but no one trains you to talk.
Well, if it makes you feel better, because I'm sure you'll do a million of these afterwards and we'll bring you back. I didn't have formal training for this. I didn't overnight become a broadcaster.
Oh, really?
I'm doing this 3.5 years, but I didn't go to school for it. It takes time. It's like anything. It's like being a wrestler, right? The first bump you take, it hurts, right? But over time, you learn, your body adapts to it. It's the same thing here.
That's actually a very good point. Yeah, I'm thankful for this and everything I've had so far. Feel free to follow NSAW, follow me, and just I'm not sure what else to add to that, to be honest.
Connor_Cage101 on Instagram, the Connor Cage, also on Twitter, Facebook. Give him a friend request. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. He may not be the best with words, but I'm telling you, in the ring, he very well could be one of the best in the ring. It has been a tremendous honor to have you. I thank you for all that you've done in terms of representing Nonstop Action Wrestling and certain GT Ministries. I wish you a lot of luck. Obviously, July the 16th, August the 13th. I know you're going to be listening to what Disciple has to say next week. Goliath is going to be back next Wednesday. I'm sure he's going to hear what you had to say. I am sure Mr. O'Cara, you're going to be tuning into him, and I'm sure many other people from the NSAW roster will be with us. And a few more comments before you go. Such a great talent you are, Connor. See you going far. Keep it up, dude. Keep it up. Listen, keep it up. Famously, as they said. So listen, my friend, keep up the good work. Congratulations out there. And I'm looking forward to watching you soon here in GT Ministries on the 16th on YouTube, GT Ministries UK, also Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere else. So thank you, my friend. And we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Connor Cage here. Of course, it was announced at the top of the hour here. He is going to be a part of the GT Ministries 30-person Rumble. He is also going to be the first participant, August the 13th, Fire and Gold Nonstop Action Wrestling 8-person tournament to crown the company's first ever world-class champion. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. We thank Connor for coming on here, and now we are joined with young Horus, another pro wrestling star here. Certainly, it doesn't get any better than this here on Sportswire Radio. And young Horus, I know you called me out on Facebook. You had, I don't know if you were calling me out personally, if you were excited to have me on, but I hope that was the case. And I hope to have you on. And congratulations on all the success that you've had. And how you doing tonight? Sorry for the delay, my friend.
Hi there, Tom. How are you doing, man? It's great to hear from you finally. First of all, I didn't really call you out. I was very excited. That's the right word.
Oh, okay. Because I said it to Connor just before. Was young Horus challenging me? Did I say something on the air about him? I was like, what? Did I say anything in a GT Ministries show or something? So I was so intrigued by that, but no, I'm glad that you were happy.
No, I was just I'm very excited to talk to you and to have this platform to be able to get my face out there, or my mask out there, as they say.
Well, you're not the first person I've had on that's actually been a masked wrestler. I've had a number of them. I've had on guys from the LWF, the Los Lancadores. I've had on Disfrasad. I've had on Mysterious Mr. B. I've heard on the Masked Marauder. I've had on Gorgon. Gorgon's been here. So I've had a number of masked guys. So I'm prepared for this. But obviously, I want to ask you a lot to get into here. I also want to ask you at the top of things. I mean, Connor Cage, you heard, I'm sure, a little bit of Connor Cage. I mean, what do you make of Connor Cage here being a participant in the GT Ministries 30-person Rumble and also Now, he's the first participant in the Nonstop Action Wrestling 8-person tournament to crown the first world champion on behalf of the company at Fire and Gold, August the 13th, because I'm sure you might want to hear some of the things I have to say on that. So give me your reactions to what Connor Cage had to say on those things.
Well, I've seen Connor since I don't want to say it's the start of NSAW because I wasn't there at the start.
Okay.
I came a little bit later on, sorry. And but what I've seen of Connor Cage is that he's such a committed individual. He's very, very focused and committed to wrestling, to learning the craft, and to developing himself as a better wrestler, really. And I personally couldn't have seen a better person to be announced as the first entrant in the Fire and Gold tournament. I'm really happy for him, and my support is all the way, unless I get announced into the tournament myself.
Well, I have an announcement for you in a few minutes regarding a championship opportunity.
Terrific.
I'll get to that. But, I mean, what do you think? I mean, right now, obviously, we spoke a lot about with a number of different wrestlers in Nonstop Action Wrestling, and we had Joshua Snow on last week. And, I mean, I would have to think you would be a contender for this. I mean, I've seen you in UKW. I mean, Tommy Dillon's chimed in. I'll get to him. I've seen you wrestle some big names. I've seen you in the ring with Tommy Dillon. I've seen you in the ring with a number of different participants in UKW. And, of course, UKW is pretty much the premier weekly UK wrestling show because you can catch them on YouTube and all of your matches. We'll get to those. But, I mean, why do you think you weren't the first person? I mean, would you like to be in the tournament? Have you had any conversations with anybody? I mean, has there been any talk with you and other wrestlers in the locker room on maybe who would be the second person to be announced by Nonstop Action Wrestling?
Well, to be honest with you, and to be honest with myself and everybody who's listening and watching at home or on the radio, in car, or wherever you are, I've not had the best success when it comes to winning and losing.
I'm aware of it. I wasn't going to bring it up until you brought it up.
Oh, well, you can't have a conversation with young Horus or about young Horus without bringing up the inevitable 0-31 losing streak at UKW. Still ongoing. Recently added to it last Saturday when I challenged the UKW television champion Cayman Carlisle.
I actually
Day of Reckoning pay-per-view.
Oh,
that's terrific. Yeah, terrific. Well, you'll know that I chose to take the higher ground, the moral higher ground, and it didn't work out for me. And unfortunately, I am not holding the television championship belt over my shoulder. So
I was kind of hoping you were going to come with us when I announced you. I was kind of hoping that you were
I was really hoping to. It would have been really nice to, show it off and to finally have that big win to talk about. Sure. But unfortunately, it's not in sight at the moment. But we never know what'll happen. You never know what'll happen this Friday or.
Hey, listen, anything can happen, and we have some people in here. Shelby Pocock says, there he is, meaning you.
Hi, Shelby.
And Shelby also says, you need the Los Luchadors. The
Luchadors, yes.
Luchadors, yeah.
As you would think, the word Luchadors, definitely the Los Luchadors are two of the premier and two of my inspirations at UKW. Definitely two of the best British mass wrestlers, or Mexican mass wrestlers.
I would like to do more of it. Yeah, I would like
I'm sure you'll get a terrific conversation out of Burrito and Quesadilla, the Los Luchadors. I'm sure you would definitely get a great conversation out of them.
I think I would get more of a reaction from that than my stomach would, because when me and Burritos don't do too well. So
this burrito's gonna do you really well, brother. I guarantee
I'm sure of that. I definitely have full confidence in that. But again, Connor thanks me for letting him come on, so I just showed that. And the wild card, Tommy Dillon, who you were in the ring with not too long ago, says, young Horus, just want to say I was cheering for you last weekend when you went for the UKW Television Championship. So close. So
close. Yeah. Thank you, Tommy. Well, I won't thank you for for dropping me on my head a couple of weeks ago. That probably
Yeah,
didn't.
you're thanking somebody for getting your head dropped.
That's what I'm saying. I'm thanking you for the comments. I'm thanking him for the comments, but I'm not thanking him for dropping me on my head.
Okay.
Because that probably didn't help my chances going into a match where I was trying to get revenge on someone who gave me a concussion.
Good point.
So you might have been my detriment in that point, Tommy Dillon, but I'm gonna completely base it on my own fault. It was my own fault that I chose the moral high ground, and really in wrestling, you have to be in the business for yourself, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. And that's a lesson that I definitely learned this last Saturday.
Well, listen, lessons to be learned, and certainly I'm sure you'll figure that out here. And the lawman Kyle Kennedy, who's coming here Sunday night, he says here because, well, he's got right now one of the more, I guess, premier undefeated streaks in professional wrestling.
Oh, yeah, 4-0.
The lawman
very aware.
Says, losing, can't relate. So certainly he doesn't know what it's like to lose in wrestling.
Get in the ring with me, Kyle, and I guarantee you'll relate to it.
Oh, so you're saying that your streak will be snapped and his streak will be snapped. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, the only time the society has ever really been able to defeat me without cheating was when they were in a 2-on-1 handicap match. So, 1-on-1 against the third uninteresting member of the society, I think my odds are pretty high. I faced Rex Savage in the steel cage and I was about a foot away from winning. So Kyle Kennedy will be walking the park. All
right. Well, certainly I'll let Mr. Kennedy respond to that Sunday night.
I'm sure he will.
But I got a good question, which I feel like for whatever reason now, people know that I've been doing these streams for so long because I feel like for whatever reason, more and more people just like are doing my questions for me. So at this point, I shouldn't even do the job. I'm going to let somebody else do it because this was what I was going to ask you actually was, who are your wrestling inspirations? I swear I didn't put anybody up to put these questions up for you because these are questions I would actually ask you, but people are actually doing that for me. So,
well, what can I say? People want to know the important questions. And when you got someone like young Horus on, you need to know the answers behind the mask. Well, my biggest inspiration, my favorite modern day wrestler is a gentleman called Pentagon Jr. or Penta Oscuro, as you probably know him in AEW.
Yep.
He was the inspiration behind my mask, behind the character that I portray. He's been a very big inspiration for me. Alongside him, you've got other wrestlers. I was a huge fan of Triple H growing up. He was probably my first wrestler that I really enjoyed watching. I remember having a Triple H figure as a child. My first wrestling figure. I had plenty, but I remember my first figure being a Triple H with the sledgehammer and the ponytail.
With the leather jacket and the
I never had the leather jacket. I wasn't that fortunate. I didn't get the leather jacket version, but no, it was the ponytail snapped off. I remember that happening.
Okay.
But I had the figure with the sledgehammer for a long time.
This was my brother because he collected wrestling figures heavily in the Attitude because we were kids. He actually had the Triple H with the black pants and like the red lettering on the side of it. This was almost pre Degeneration X, almost like right before he teamed up with Shawn Michaels, and that was like a really like cool Triple H figure he had. I know he has.
Oh, really? Okay, so would that have been before he was Triple H then?
Like Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yeah, when he was Hunter. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's I grew up watching. I remember my first earliest images of wrestling that I can remember are some of the table and ladder matches, the TLC matches between the Hardys and Edge and Christian and
I remember it very well. I remember the Royal Rumble 2000. I had a front row seat in my room growing up in Brooklyn, New York.
I never grew up watching the big shows, but those were my first images. I remember watching that on a big screen in one of my brother's houses. I was probably about 5 or 6 maybe at that age. and yeah, Jeff Hardy was a massive inspiration to me. I was always, if back when you were a kid on the trampoline with your friends, I was always doing the Swanton Bomb and the Twist of Fate. And,
I heard that a lot. Like if you were a wrestler or you were
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
be a wrestler, you were almost like if you had a trampoline, you almost like hit the lotto almost.
Oh, exactly. And I was doing the Whisper in the Wind and every move I
I
could
wasn't
possibly
so
come up
lucky
with.
for the trampoline, and
I was very lucky. I had the X Factor was my finishing move. Funnily enough.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. I
even
remember that move.
though at the time I didn't even know who X Pac was.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I think I watched it. I think I saw it on a SmackDown versus Raw game once, and just went, right, that's my finishing move. I'm going to use that.
And I have a comment from somebody, Shelby Pocock. Tom, are you in America at the moment? Yes, I'm in New York, and I don't know how long I'll be where I am at the moment, but I am here presently today. Today, right now, 9:31 British Standard Time, 4:31 p.m. Eastern Time. I am here in New York City.
Are you ever going to be coming to Britain to see some British wrestling?
I got to be honest. It's something that like I am definitely. I feel like I actually was thinking about this morning because I'm sure you're aware of. There's like 7 or 8 companies that I probably do a lot of stuff with. And Colin McGregor is back with us from CCW and obviously NSAW, GTM, and certainly over at Odyssey, all the people there and the LWF.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to figure out so if I'm going to come here, right, I'm going to come and watch everybody and do it. I'm guessing for a month. So where am I staying? So I've got to watch all these people in these different.
You've got to stay. I would suggest probably if you wanted to stay in you wanted to see CCW, NSAW.
I want to see everybody because I got the LWF, I got KOW, I got Odyssey, I've got UKW to an extent. I've got NSAW.
I would say you probably want to stay Leeds or Manchester area, maybe. You want to stay somewhere central, so you've got angles everywhere in the country.
And apparently, I've got a comment. I got a bunch. I'm way behind on comments because clearly I'm a blabbermouth and nobody wants to hear me. Apparently, somebody here is a hotel manager. So if I'm coming, I guess I'll have to do.
There you go, then. There you go.
To be honest, I've had about. I won't name names. I've had about 25 wrestlers, I kid you not, in the last month or so that have said, when are you coming to England? You've been working with us for a year and a half. Why haven't you been here yet? And I don't know that answer, but that might be coming sooner rather than later. So maybe come later at the end of summer. Maybe that's the goal. We'll work on that. We'll definitely work on that, but nobody wants to hear me when I'm coming. People want to hear more about, and I've got more wrestlers who all of a sudden are fired up about that. But let's get to some more comments in here, and certainly let me get to Supersonic Sammy Blue. I got to give a big shout out to Supersonic Sammy Blue. And I have your announcement, so I got to get to that. So let's get to some of these questions. And I got a Young Horus announcement. So a question I've always wondered, though, before I do that, what does wearing your mask mean? That's a great question because with wrestlers, it's different wearing a mask than for anybody else.
So I don't really have any heritage in Egypt or even in Mexican wrestling, so I don't have a link to luchadors or anything like that, or lucha libre. The inspiration behind a mask came from not only having the huge inspiration from Pentagon Jr. The symbolism to the mask is it represents a sense of good health, empowerment, and so forth. And I went through quite a lot of dark days in my life, and I've gone through quite a lot of my own downward spirals on several times, and I've found that having wrestling, it's brought me back. It's brought me back up to better spirits and having a clearer mind. And the symbol of the Eye of Horus always does represent good health. And I thought that, having that, I've got it tattooed on my arm. It's upside down here, but yeah, it's tattooed on my wrist. It's definitely a symbol that I found because I've never been religious, so I've never had a symbol or anything that I can sort of link myself to. So I found this symbol, and it just sort of spoke to me, and it was definitely something that I thought, right, well, I definitely want to put this on my mask and have it with me always. And when I put it on, it's going to keep me protected, and it's done a pretty good job of it so far. So
I
touch
think
wood.
so. Hey, I tell you what, you're out there every week. You're wrestling every week on a weekly television program. I mean, how many people can say that? So we all go through our moments, but you're doing the best you can right now.
Well, I like to call myself Mr. Friday Night as a bit of a joke because I'm there every single Friday at UKW. The only times that I've missed a Friday night showdown was when I was injured by Cayman Carlisle, and I think I was only gone for about 4 weeks. Other than that, I've been on every single episode wrestling. If I've not wrestled, I've been in a segment, cutting a promo, and talking to the people. And ever since I've come back from my injury, I've had so much support from so many people. It's been brilliant because I had a bit of an attitude problem when I started out. I was a bit cocky and a bit arrogant, and I was blaming a lot of people for my losses. And I found that just being the better person and just accepting my failures and moving on with them and learning from them, it's giving me a lot better. And I'm getting match of the night on a weekly basis at UKW. There's the podcast, Steve Swift podcast, who does weekly review of the show. He's giving me match of the night on most weeks since I've returned, and it's been, and my opponents as well, they're very terrific people. They're very terrific
I tell you what, I mean,
and they're all brilliant workers. But I do think there's it's not a coincidence that I'm making these waves because I'm putting my all into it.
You can look at it like this, and I know obviously the losing streak is what it is, and we want to obviously win matches, and I've got a ton of comments, and I'll get to everybody. I know I'm behind. I appreciate all the support, but obviously we're here with Pro Wrestling Star here, young Horus of a number of different companies, including obviously UKW, Nonstop Action Wrestling, GT Ministries. We do have an announcement here in a few minutes I want to get to with young Horus, but we are with him. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. I've had on in different sports. I just had on a couple of college basketball players where their team was 3-23 last season. So this is kind of similar to where you are. And, the analogy I had made at that point was, well, you know what? In those 23 games, there was something like 19 of the losses. The team in the last minute could have won the games or something like that. So you look at it and you still went out there. You still competed. I had on a college basketball coach famously right before COVID, literally like the day before COVID was announced. And his team had won something like 2 games. They were 2-24, but I happened to cover them and watch them play. But the point was, similar to you, your match of the night, you're out there every week. Promoters don't book people unless they bring something to the table. You're getting a match. You're on that show every week. Find me a talent that has had, unfortunately, the luck that you've had, but yet is still out there every single week. Barry Horowitz, they didn't put out there in the spots you were getting every week. Listen, Kurt Hawkins years ago in WWE or Heath Slater, they were like punchlines. You're not a punchline. You're having legitimate, like, to put it in Meltzer terms, 5-star matches. I mean, I've watched some of your matches on YouTube. Like, you really are a very good wrestler. I mean, like, I'm not just saying it. Like, there are people that come on and it's like, yeah, okay. All right, you had a couple matches, and no disrespect, I'm not a wrestler. I would never say that. But, like, you legitimately have matches, and I learned something from them. So, I mean, you are doing something.
I wouldn't call them
winning. Maybe you're winning.
I wouldn't call them a 5-star Meltzer match. I wish I could. That'd be terrific to be mentioned by Meltzer. But no, maybe one day, but definitely. But no, there is. I've said it before. There's a reason why I'm booked every single week. There's a reason why I'm having these matches, and yes, as much as we'd all love to have a win, the wins don't really matter because I'm having these terrific matches and I'm learning so much. And what matters to a wrestler most, or what should matter to a wrestler most, is not winning. It's definitely learning and improving. And that's something I've been training. I've only been wrestling for coming up to a year now. I think it's about 10 or 11 months now. But I've been training for 6 years, and it's something that I've really, really had to work for. I've had to fight to put weight on for, and I've had to work my butt off to be able to get to where I am, and I couldn't be prouder of myself.
Oh, you should be. Listen, you know what? You've had almost 50 matches or so, 50 plus matches in
Coming
10
up
months.
there, yeah.
I mean, listen, that you've wrestled a lot. You've definitely,
Yeah.
there's certain wrestlers where it's like, well, okay, well, it's just a hobby more or less here. And let me get to a few other comments before I do get to the announcement, because I do have an announcement for Young Horse, which is kind of why we have him in here.
We'll
So
get there. We'll get there.
Look, you got a lot of fans. For somebody that hasn't won, you have fans. So
I didn't know I would hit. Didn't know I did. But that's terrific. Thank you. Hi everyone.
And I got a good one though from Shelby. I mean, what's the favorite match that you've had? That's actually a good question.
There's a few that I've had that have been absolutely terrific, but I think definitely the match that I stepped through the curtain and immediately went, that's the best match I've had to date. You know, that's my favorite match. Nothing went wrong. Everything flowed perfectly. The reactions were perfect. Everything needed to go the way it did. And even though I didn't get the win, it still was my favorite match because of how close I came at so many opportunities. And that would definitely be against a gentleman called Momentum.
Yes.
So I wrestled against Momentum in, I think it was his second match since his debut. And that kid's just got just bag loads of talent. He's definitely one to keep an eye on, and definitely one I'd suggest to watch for the future. He's had, he debuted. I think he debuted against Joe Sedgwick at one point when he was the Genesis champion at the time, and they had an absolute barn burner. And I thought, right, well, I've got to have this match with him, and I guarantee you it's going to be just as good, if not better, than the matches that he's already had. And we did that. We went out there and we just tore the house down. And there were definitely other matches that I've enjoyed. Tommy Dillon's a match that I really enjoyed.
I just enjoyed the match he had with JPR actually a couple weeks ago. I just rewatched that match actually the other day. I rewatched it for like the third time. I mean, yeah, Tommy Dillon's just a very, very phenomenal wrestler. Definite
workhorse. He's been a huge staple of UKW for such a long time. I've only been there for a very short period, but from what I've heard, he's been part of the academy there before it was Genesis. He was one of the first, if not the first. My history is terrible, but he was an academy champion, and he had these brilliant matches with LRB, which I believe he mentioned on his interview with you a few days ago.
He did.
He's the stories that he can tell and the amount of knowledge that Tommy Dillon has is just absolutely huge. He's definitely someone that is well suited in his role as the NSAW. I'd say head coach, maybe, or one of the head coaches.
A little while ago with Connor, basically he's the head trainer. He's the man there, pretty much. So
he's definitely the guy in charge. He definitely will. If you ever want advice, or I've gone to him several times, or just pointers, or you have a question, he's definitely someone that you can rely on a straight answer and a reliable one, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. No, listen, Tommy Dillon, I could feel just in the interview with him the wealth of experience and also the wealth of life experience that he had here. But
oh God,
I've got a number of other comments in here. Let me get to at least one or two of them before I get to this announcement, because I really wanted to get to this announcement, but I got to catch up with everybody here. Is there anyone you want to face you haven't already, and also much respect? That's a good one.
Anyone I haven't faced? I mean, the entire AEW roster, the entire Ring of Honor roster. You could go onto that direction, but
can I give you one though? Can I give you a British one? Can I give you one?
Of course you can. Yeah, that's what I was going to go for. That's what I'm going to go for.
Oh, well, good. I like to throw one out there, which I think you'd have a great match with. I know you don't work in the same company with him, but I would love to see you with Eitan Steen.
Eitan Steen. I'm not familiar, I'm afraid.
He's in Bolton Town Wrestling in the LWF.
In Bolton Town, is he?
Yeah, you mentioned Jeff Hardy a little bit. His style is very much like frenetic, kind of like a Jeff Hardy. He's like a daredevil type. I think you and him would have a great match. Another person who I've interviewed a few times, who you probably do know, 2-Bit.
2-Bit. Yeah. Oh, I'm very familiar with 2-Bit. Yeah.
2-Bit, you definitely know. 2-Bit, you definitely know.
Yeah, he's you could consider him another masked wrestler if you want to consider this. Is it a potato sack that he has, or a sandbag on his head? Or I'm not too sure what it is, but I'm not going to go into guessing too much. I don't want to get onto the wrong side.
Yeah, don't with 2-Bit. I've had him on like 4 times, and 2-Bit's an interesting guy. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, he's a familiar guy. He's interesting, definitely interesting. No, he's he would be interesting as an interesting opponent. I'm sure, but I think someone that I haven't faced yet, that's in sort of the circle that I'm in, would be probably the owner of UKW, Jonathan Sedgwick. Funnily enough, I've actually not wrestled him.
Really?
Yeah, no. Funnily enough, I've wrestled the Genesis general manager, as you know, Mustafa Khan.
Yeah, I definitely know that. I know Mustafa Khan very well.
A few weeks ago when he put out an open challenge for his UKW heavyweight championship. So I was the unlucky soul that decided I'm gonna stick my neck out and face these 5 people. It essentially was a 5-on-1 handicap match. Yeah, it didn't go to plan. But I would love a match against Jonathan Sedgwick, the likes of maybe J. Rowe Lewis, who I've only ever faced in a tag team match. I would love to go 1-on-1 with someone who's all pretty much the same size as I am, and someone who's because I've always found myself fighting against people who are much larger opponents. Like someone like Disciple would be a good opponent as well.
I'll tell you what. You mentioned the magic word, Disciple. He's one of my favorites.
He's a bit of a keyword here around here, and a buzzword.
Yeah, he's a big buzzword around here. And in fact, he's coming back next week. In fact, he's coming back right before I have world champion boxer Paul Pierce. And ironically, Paul Pierce is fighting in Portsmouth. He's fighting on pay-per-view on TV. And Disciple, of course, is from Portsmouth. So what an ironic evening that's going to be next Thursday on Sportzwire Radio. So
well, you never know. Them two might go out for a drink after the match. Or
might end up in I should say this because Disciple, I'm sure, will appreciate this. But the boxer who's the champion, Paul Pierce, he's actually he holds 2 different belts. He actually messaged me on WhatsApp and said, hey, I heard you with that promo and you said that announcement for him with the wrestler guy. And he was like, wow. He's like, I do boxing and they don't announce me like that in boxing. He's like, I want to meet this guy, Disciple. He's like, I want to meet this guy. Like,
he wants the Bruce Buffer feel.
Well, we'll see. Maybe when I get to the UK in a few months, we'll figure that out. And come visit me in Leeds, Tom. I'll show you around the town. Yeah, that might be a possibility. All right, so I have a few comments, but let me get to the announcement because I'll come back to everybody because we'll hang out here for a little while longer with pro wrestling star here, Young Horus. So here's the announcement for you, Young Horus. I know we spoke about some different companies. I know we spoke about UKW. I know we spoke about Nonstop Action Wrestling. Haven't quite got to mention GTM, but I've got a good reason as to why I'm going to mention it to you because July the 16th, apparently, I have good authority from management at GT Ministries, which, of course, you can follow at GT Ministries UK on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, also YouTube UK for all the great things they do, GT Ministries UK, in the fact that in the 30-person Rumble tournament to declare the number 1 contender to Jack Johnson's World Championship, and the winner of that at the Fountains Church on July the 16th will face off with Jack Johnson for that GT Ministries World Championship coming up in September. In fact, one of the participants, it has now been announced, in addition to our guest that came on before you, Connor Cage, Young Horus, you are now officially a participant in the 30-person Rumble to declare that number 1 contender to that GT Ministries World Championship. So, Young Horus, you got to give me some reactions because now you're going to be in that tournament. All the stuff we spoke about the losing streak and this and that, well, apparently that could all change come July the 16th, and you could actually be wrestling somebody in September that would be kind of maybe in your size, and maybe this could be the start of a whole new Young Horus and a whole new streak.
Well, someone has to shut Jack Johnson up. He's got a bit of a big mouth, hasn't he? It's the GTM Rumble is definitely something that that I would love to win. There's I never talk about winning because I don't like to get my hopes up. But it's definitely something that when I get there and I'm going to be a part of it, I'm going to be putting my all in. I've got my goal set in mind. I've got my eye on the GT Ministries World Championship, and I know for a fact that someone like Jack Johnson is no match for the likes of me, because I've got too much heart. I've got too much fight. He's just a nervous wreck half the time. He's just scared a lot of the time. He hides behind the people that he's got tethered on a leash. If anything,
the Metal God, Alex Boylan, and certainly Rarebit. I mean, certainly Mr. Johnson.
Exactly. He doesn't deserve to be able to hold that title. The GTM World Championship needs to be on somebody who people can be proud of. This is something that I said to Cayman Carlisle when I challenged him, that the titles need to be on people that the crowd can be proud of, that are holding the belt, that they know that they can watch and go, right, well, whenever I see a match with this person in it, they're gonna give 100%. They're not gonna cut any corners. They're not gonna take any easy roads. They're gonna fight, and they're gonna put on the matches that are deserving of main events. You know, it's simple as that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, certainly some big words here from young Horus. As once again, we have announced that young Horus will be one of the 30 participants in the upcoming GT Ministries Battle Royale to decide who will be that number one contender to Jack Johnson's World Championship. And I can tell you, young Horus definitely isn't from Salford. So Salford will definitely not be represented.
Far from it.
Should young Horus win, I think Salford will not be represented much more when it comes to GT Ministries. But I got to ask you, young Horus, then, is there anybody in the Rumble that you specifically might want to square off with and maybe lock up with? Anybody that you'd like to see there that you'd want to maybe encounter?
I mean, there's quite a few people in the. I'm not too familiar with who is in the Rumble. Obviously,
we're
they're still
finding
being
that out
announced.
ourselves.
We are on a daily basis. We're having to find out. I know recently they announced that Tommy Dillon's going to be part of it. Gung Ho Muttley's in as well.
Yep.
As far as we know, I want to see what Conor Cage can do. I may not want to have a interaction with Conor Cage, but I definitely want to see how he goes in the Rumble. I want to see what he comes. And if we come to blows, I know for a fact that he's just going to get lifted up and thrown out the top. He's like half my size, and that's saying something. And no disrespect to Conor Cage, I know you've got the heart, mate, but when someone's able to just lift you up and throw you ain't got much chance in a Rumble.
All right, well, that's a good point. Let me get to a few different people that have now heard about this. And of course, that is Pride, who you know, also from GTM, also somebody that's just up and coming out of the academy there. He says, young Horus will be in the Rumble. The talent is astounding. We may have to do something. I think the first declaration for you already in this Rumble could be Pride. I mean, you.
I do actually have some unfinished business with Pride. I was lucky enough to wrestle him in his first ever match at GT Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
We wrestled, and it was a good match. It was a very good match, Pride, and I'd love to see how far you've come. And I'm assuming that you're going to be in the Rumble as well, as far as we know. If you're there, Pride, we're definitely having that unfinished business solved. I'm going to be settling that without a doubt. And I know for a fact that it's not a matter of you pinning me on or submitting me unconscious like you did last time. I'm just going to throw you straight over the top rope, and I'm going to be taking that number one contendership for the GT Ministries World Championship. Simple as that.
It's a very distinct possibility. There is a chance, and Conor Cage says, fair enough, who was just with us. I guess I got to watch out for giants like Rarebit and Horus then. So Connor Cage again. And Connor's got a lot of pressure on him right now, as I'm sure you're aware. There's a lot of pressure on Connor Cage because we announced him just before at the top of the show. And obviously what Joshua Snow said last week before we went off the air with him, where he was announcing him as the first participant in the Fire and Gold tournament. So certainly a lot of pressure on Connor Cage. And here's somebody else here that says, and a great point, you were my favorite match since my debut. Hopefully we'll get another same day. Another match.
Yeah, definitely,
Respond
Mo.
to that?
Definitely, Mo. We definitely deserve another match. I need to get that win back. Whether that means ruining your night and getting that first win. Maybe you never know what happens over the next few weeks, but what the fact is that we sort of had a chemistry in the ring that you don't really get often with many wrestlers, many of your opponents, especially when you're having as many matches as I am on a weekly basis or monthly basis.
Sure.
It's people come and go, but Mo was definitely someone who stuck in my mind and who I definitely will be having another match with. I can be very sure of that.
I have a
Whether that's a
feeling about
UKW, NSAW, Blackheart Wrestling, GTM or TNT. I don't care where it is, mate. We could do it in the car park and I'll still have a great match with you.
I have a good feeling about that. Let me get to some more comments in here. Commentary is going to be so fun at GTM next month. I can't wait for July the 16th at the Fountains Church because we have a lot between now and then on Sportswire Radio to be announcing. All I can tell you is stay tuned because we're going to have a lot of talent between now and the 16th that's going to be on related to GTM's next show. Very, very excited about that. And if you love what you hear from GT Ministries UK on all the different platforms in here. And let me get to another question before I give you one, but I want to get to somebody else here. Any trainees in companies such as NSAW, UKW, and GTM you think you'd like to wrestle in the future? This is trainees, so not talent, because you answered the talent question already, but is there any trainees in those companies that you think, hey, you know what, I want to lock up with?
I mean, who counts as a trainee at NSAW? I mean, would you count someone as Goliath as a trainee?
Yeah, I guess because what did he have? The match with Tommy Dillon, right? And then he had, I guess you could say, the challenge, quote unquote, that he answered with old school MC2. Yeah, I mean, Connor Cage mentioned Goliath actually a little while ago. So if you want to go there, I mean, you could.
I mean, there's definitely people who
And
I think
Goliath's coming
anybody.
back on, by the way, next Wednesday. So
Yeah,
he'll hear
definitely.
this.
Anybody who I think, I no names come to mind right now, but there's definitely people who, if you show the commitment and you show the willing to be a wrestler, there's no doubt that I'll end up wrestling you in the future. I mean, when Connor Cage was a trainee, I definitely would love to have seen him because, like I said, he's got a lot of pressure on him and he doesn't want to make enemies. So he wants to be very careful, but at the same time, there's a lot of respect for him. And someone like him, if we had a match, I think it'd go very interesting. I think it'd be very interesting, very exciting. I mean, there's no doubt that the people in NSAW and UKW in the Genesis brand, which is their academy developmental brand, and at GT Ministries, who like I wrestled Pride, who was from
GT
the GTM
Ministries,
academy.
there's a lot of people out of the academy. Casey Jack Bradley's out of the academy. There's a number of different talent that I've had a chance to message, and they've messaged me. But let me get to Mr. Angel, because when GT Ministries gets mentioned, you know that it's almost a bat single. And of course, Mr. Gareth Angel, you know him very well. He's definitely a colleague of yours. And he says, looks like I'll be crossing paths with both Connor Cage and young Horus on July 16th. Enjoying the wild cards this Rumble is throwing up. GT management have gone above and beyond. And let me give GT Ministries management credit for a second, because you know what? The forbidden door has been opened. And on top of that, every company I noticed is doing rumbles now. Hey, let's do a rumble. Hey, let's do a tournament. It was
It's rumble
JT
season.
Ministries that started the idea. All these other companies, and I don't want to call them knockoffs. I don't want to call them imitators. I don't want to say that because we work with a lot of companies here. And I don't want to go into that business. But GT Ministries really got the ball rolling because you almost never see battle royals or rumbles in the UK. Almost never see them. And
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, Tom. There's actually quite a lot of it's quite a large, it's quite a well done event. Is the Rumble? What better way to get the entire roster on the card than to have stick them all in a Rumble?
And that's what GT Ministries has done here.
Definitely, they definitely have. And GT Ministries are one of the, I'd say one of the more family-friendly brands that and promotions who are definitely sort of almost paving the way for other smaller companies as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Places like UK Wrestling are doing the exact same, and regardless, it's good because there's so many different promotions in pretty much, there's a promotion every single town in Britain. It doesn't matter where you are, you can find wrestling. That's something that I was very shocked by because when I first sort of got into the business, started training, I was quite surprised at the vastness and the amount of wrestling companies that are around. And I didn't realize that British wrestling was as huge. I thought it was just big in like America and Japan and like Mexico, but I didn't realize how huge. I thought personally that after World of Sports finished in like the 70s and 80s, I thought that was it. I thought we were just done. And I thought there was maybe like, I don't know, I thought there was maybe like one or two companies, I knew about. This was around the time that a couple of years before NXT UK sort of became a thing.
Yep.
So then, and even before NXT UK became it, independent wrestling in Britain has been huge for so long. It's never stopped. Definitely.
Listen,
and that's what's terrific about it.
I wouldn't even listen to, and I'm going to be before I get to a comment in here directed to Mr. Angel. So, Mr. Angel, you might want to hear this in a second, but I will say this: American independent wrestling compared to UK independent wrestling, it's complete night and day. I've done a little bit of American independent wrestling coverage, and it's like
I've heard you say this before. It's definitely British wrestling is there's definitely a sense of realness to it. There's definitely a lot. It's sort of almost ingrained in whichever town that promotion.
Yes, whether it's Morecambe, Yorkshire, Chorley, you name the territory.
Yeah,
it's like it's different. In America, it's like
definitely
what they do is they'll give you an independent show and they'll put like 2 or 3 old wrestlers on. They'll get these guys, and it's like it's just not. And I've covered it. It's not nowhere near the same. But I have to get to something here toward Mr. Angel or Mr. Management, whatever you want to call it. And this individual, which I could not agree on more. You know what? Thank you for this individual here to remind me this. Thank you very much, because why hasn't Disciple been announced yet for the GT Ministries 30-person Rumble? Because
maybe they're waiting. Maybe they're waiting for when Disciple gets back onto your show. Maybe he just needs to be a bit more patient.
Ooh, well, okay. If you say
you never
so.
know. Maybe they were waiting for your announcement. I mean, how great did you just make that sound when you announced
I
me
appreciate
as a
that.
member
Thank you very
on the
much.
Rumble? It's understandable. You just need to have a bit of patience, and good things come to those who wait. I should be the one who knows that the most, because I've had to wait 31 matches and I'm still not getting there, but it's coming.
Disciple fans out there, you got some sticking up there for you. All right, so you know what?
I've always said I'm never afraid of someone based on their size. I've faced Rex Savage in a steel cage. I've gone 1-on-1 with Mustafa Khan. I've gone 1-on-5 with Mustafa Khan.
I saw that too.
I've done a 1-on-1 with Big Duncan. I've wrestled absolute pound for pound monsters like Danny Loco, who's not the biggest guy, but he picked me up for his finishing move and he nearly launched me across his shoulders. I felt my entire body like fly. He just picked me up like a feather. You know, the people that I've faced, you know, Goliath and Disciple, they're just going to be numbers at the end of the day. They'll just be another number or
But
two.
they're big men, though. I mean,
Oh, they
Disciple
are, but
honestly is in good shape.
I'm not gonna stand down from someone just because they've could just based on their size. Like, I've got to show a bit more gall and a bit more commitment to the business than being afraid of someone just because they're 6'4". I mean, how many wrestlers are 6 foot or over 6 foot and 200 pounds? Like, it's something that I've had to get used to. I have to like accept it as a reality, as that like I'm always going to be facing someone who's bigger than me.
All right, let me get to a breaking news here because I've got certainly a few things I got to get to here. Now, let me get to the first break because apparently GT Ministries management, just like Mr. Snow, they have heard my eulogy or sermon, you might want to say, for Disciple. So I'm glad that Disciple fans, maybe like myself, might be getting something here. We're aware of Disciple and his campaign to be considered for this Rumble. There are 21 spots still to be filled. And guess what? He's coming back 8 o'clock next Thursday. So apparently for management here, I guess we'll be on the clock. Stay tuned for that. And Supersonic Sammy Blue says, I'm Disciple's biggest fan. Can't blame him. I've had the pleasure of watching him in the ring and being in the ring with him briefly. He is a tremendous talent with a spine buster I'd like to avoid, please.
Very, definitely. 100%. He is. There's no doubting like how talented Disciple is and the presence that he has, the amount of knowledge he's got. I have nothing but respect for him. And you know, going back to what I said before, just because you have respect for someone doesn't mean you need to fear them. There's a big difference between fear and respect. And I can respect them, but I'm still going to give him a good fight and I'll challenge him, you know, anytime he wants. There's nothing set in stone, but I mean, I've got bigger problems already at the NSAW. I've been getting grief from the Academy of Agony recently.
I'm going to get to NSAW in a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to come right back to NSAW. So you definitely read my mind there. And Andrew Jepson is 6'4", and you had a cracking match. Great point.
I did, yeah. Andrew Jepson was definitely he's literally he's called a Man Mountain for a reason, but you wouldn't think that by watching his matches because he's absolutely agile as whole. He tag teams in a New Dawn with Billy O'Keefe, and
yes,
Billy O'Keefe is an incredibly athletic wrestler. Jepson, at the size he is, keeps up with Billy. So the fact that I was able to even hold my own against someone like Jepson for even just like a moment, it was an accomplishment in itself because, you know, he's so fast, he's so strong, he's so powerful, and he's huge. There's no getting away from him. So he's got attributes that people like Big Duncan and Mustafa Khan don't have, and in that he has so much speed and agility.
Yeah, Mustafa doesn't have much speed. I watched the Jack Johnson match with him, and certainly.
But he's like a brick wall. He's like a brick wall. I chopped him. In my match with him, and he didn't move. He didn't react to it. He just sort of looked at me.
Jack Johnson apparently had a plan, and I mean, Johnson, I have not seen anybody dominate Mustafa Khan like that in a long, long time. I mean,
it's been a while since Mustafa Khan has been in a match where he was just by himself and he had people using weapons against him. Jack Johnson choked him out with a chain. I mean, give me a chain and put them and throw the Persian Empire, you know, in a different city, and I'll probably beat Mustafa Khan. And you can call me the new UKW heavyweight champion. But Jack Johnson got lucky. He got very lucky. He got very lucky that the circumstances were just, you know, brilliant for him.
Let me get to nonstop. I got a few comments, but let me get to nonstop action wrestling here. Who do you think would be a great first-time champion for nonstop action wrestling other than yourself? Because obviously the answer would be, well, young Horus. Right?
I have two immediate answers.
Okay.
The first one you will probably have guessed as Conor Cage.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I knew you would put him up there. Because you know, he is everything that embodies non-stop action, and he is very committed to the company, and there's nobody else that could be a better. I personally don't think there could be anyone who represents the company best. If you want someone who's very talented and a main eventer and will draw, there are other names that you could get because Conor Cage isn't that well known and that long into his career.
Right.
But he's a brilliant representation of what the company means and because the company, it started out as just an academy, as just a school.
Right, I know that.
So for him to go from training to then to being part of these shows to then being considered to being the potential inaugural world-class champion, it's huge stepping stones for him, and he's been able to just ride that wave, and he's got so much momentum behind him. I think definitely. I don't think, regardless of situations with the Swarm, he's doing terrific. He's doing terrific. I think, given no distractions, he'll be the champion. My second guess would be, providing he is part of the tournament, I think Danny Loco. Danny Loco is the guy that defeated me at Exordium several months ago. Me and him put on a brilliant match. I've also faced him in triple threat match at the last show that they did, where we faced Lance Rivera, the Playboy Prince.
Very well. I know him very well.
Oh my God, he is insufferable, man. Like, he was, by the end of the match, he was like running away from me. That's how much of a rat he is.
Yeah,
but
I know
Danny Loco is an absolutely terrific talent. He's very underappreciated, and I've said to him before, branch out and you will go so far in any company that you want to step into, because you are so, as long as, if he's got the commitment and if he has the will to go to these other places and succeed, he can do it regardless of wherever he goes. And NSAW, he's a brilliant part of the training team there. And yeah, I think that if not Conor Cage, why not Danny Loco? He won the Rumble at the Christmas Carnage.
True. Yeah, you know what? That I hadn't thought about that, and you know what? That Danny Loco would be somebody that that wouldn't be a bad choice. So I have to give you credit. Those are fair choices.
He hasn't lost the match at NSAW yet, as far as I know. He beat me at Summertime Slaughterhouse. He beat me and Lance at the Exordium, and then he beat 30 other wrestlers
to win the Rumble. Yeah,
to win the Rumble.
That's a good one. You know what?
And I'm pretty sure he also had a match that earlier that night. Some people want to say it was Santa Claus that was there, but I'm pretty sure
Champ
it was
Rogers
Danny
and
under that mask.
We spoke about that. I know we spoke about that when Champ was on.
the guy's got huge amounts of talent. Unbelievable.
No, he does. No question that he definitely does. And I want to make sure I acknowledge him as well. And Dante O'Cara says, who's going to come with us on July 4th. So certainly, I'm not going to be taking a break here in America. No fireworks for me. We're providing them on Sportzwire Radio Live because Dante O'Cara is going to be here. And he says, I have much respect for young Horus, one of the very few members of the NSAW roster who has my respect. So he respects you. He respects you.
You notice we haven't heard too much from Dante O'Cara during this interview, but we had a lot of him in Conor Cage's interview.
We had a lot of him in
That's because he doesn't care about Conor Cage. With me, he'll happily listen, and he understands. And I the respect is mutual, because I know he is a good wrestler. He was a good trainee at NSAW, and he's on the wrong path. He's just doing the couple of wrong things the wrong way, and he just needs to get his head straight. He needs to associate himself with the right people, and I think he'll go far. He's just, Dante, you have my respect, but I just think you can do better as a person. But as I said earlier, being the better person don't always get you what you want in professional wrestling.
Well, we'll certainly find out. And I almost have to ask you a funny question because I asked Connor this question. He kind of looked at me
Okay.
like, huh? Is he really from Los Angeles, California? Because it says on Dante's Facebook he's from Los Angeles, California. I was gonna say, how does he get around?
He's got a really bad accent. I mean I don't know Americans, so I couldn't tell you if he has a legitimate Californian accent. I couldn't tell, as far as I know, it sounds American. It could be Canadian as far as I know. So
Okay.
I take him for face value. I say if you say you're from Los Angeles, then fine, you're from Los Angeles.
Okay.
Buddy.
Well, I'll find out. I'll tell you what. I'll make sure I ask him that question. That's the only thing I'll ask him of. So.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear him. I can't wait to hear his.
I'm sure of that. And Supersonic Sammy Blue says, you as well, Horus. I think you, Connor Cage, Champ Rogers, plus me and my fellow Guardians should band together to chuck the Academy of Agony out of nonstop action wrestling, meaning Mad Ed and certainly Gung Ho Muttley and what's left of old school MC2. So certainly,
yeah, before he falls apart again.
Yeah.
Again. So the Academy of Agony are just being a thorn in everybody's side.
Oh, I know them very well. I know them.
Yeah,
from
I'm sure you do.
Very well.
And
I know them well.
I think, yeah, definitely. I think, Sammy Blue, Connor Cage, Champ Rogers, and who else is in the Guardians? You got Leonie Rose, and I believe Mikey Future as well.
Yep.
That sounds like overkill, don't you think? I think I could take two people and just run through the academy.
What's the old adage of that? That when you have like the strength in numbers, it's because yourself one-on-one, you're kind of like deep down, you're kind of like afraid, almost like they're bullies in a sense.
Yeah, they've got there's 3 or 4 of them, and it's they do like their academy. They're a school of bullies, basically. Academy of Agony. Why not just call yourself the School of Bullies? Because that's just what they are. Simple as. And like I said, just give me 2 people, throw them on my back, and we'll run through them, put them in detention, and we'll go and call their parents.
People are still calling my parents on me for all the trouble I caused.
Can you call MC2's parents?
Well, the running joke
didn't Champ say he's like 80? So
I did say that, and the running joke we've had on Sportswire Radio was that when dinosaurs were roaming around the earth, so was old school MC2. So that was kind of the
he does smell like a dinosaur. If you get too close to him, he smells. He's got that old smell. People
are talking about Ric Flair being in the ring, but like old school MC2 is even older than Ric Flair in the ring.
Oh yeah, if anybody needs to wrestle Ric Flair, it's probably MC2 to see loser retires forever match, like finally for the last time.
Wow, I don't know. Ric Flair, I feel like he'll.
No, that'd be a bit of a step up for MC2, if anything.
And Mr. Snow has responded. Of course, he is the man behind Nonstop Action Wrestling. It was a tremendous honor to have him last week on the show, and we certainly look forward to having Mr. Snow back on here any day of the week that he wants. And bullies they may be, but they know what they are doing. However, I have no doubts that if anyone can knock them for 6, you certainly can. And also Supersonic Sammy Blue says, I'll get Champ to jump on your back, and I'll ring up the school phone. Also, Dante O'Cara says, Gung Ho is a overhyped jock. Yeah, I guess jock, overhyped, be determined. I know in GTM, covering him in GTM, I know that he has very little fans in GTM. Certainly, I know it's no different in Nonstop Action Wrestling. But
does he mean that? Does he mean that he's overhyped in the sense that he's overrated, or just that he is literally overhyped? Because I'm pretty sure he is just. If you speak to that guy, he doesn't stop shouting. That's probably where Ed gets it from. I'm not too sure. I mean, I've had my back and forth with Mad Ed in the past, and he's got my respect. But he's a crazy guy, and it's understandable why he and Gung Ho have sort of gone under MC2's wings, because they're all just as annoying as each other.
I guess kind of a bit of both, and of course. Let me get to the lawman Kyle Kennedy, because once he hears Joshua Snow's out there, he says, Snow put me in the tournament. Connor Cage responds once again, says, kind of backfired with the Academy and the Swarm. Surely nothing can go wrong with the Guardians, surely for me. And I've got another good question. You've wrestled women a couple of times now. If you could wrestle another female, who would it be?
I mean, that's a It's an interesting question. I've wrestled Leonie Rose in several different promotions several times. I think I've actually had more matches with Leonie Rose than I have any other wrestler.
Really?
I think we're up to about 4 or 5 now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I wrestled her in GTM.
I saw that. That I know of.
I've wrestled her. I think I wrestled her a couple of times at GTM. Maybe I wrestled at GTM. I've done it UKW a couple of times. I've also wrestled her at Blackheart recently, and she's a terrific opponent. I've never really been able to get the upper hand, so it just shows how terrific she is. She very deserving of the UKW Women's Championship.
Oh, absolutely, no question.
Talent-wise, personality-wise, she's an absolutely horrible person when it comes to the UKW crowd. When it comes to wrestling another woman, I mean, in British wrestling, there's quite a few really talented wrestlers that sort of come to mind. If you go in like the UKW scene, I know there's been like Alfie, Mia Cortez, Kirsty Love's recently been there, and Molly Spartan as well. Any of those 4 would be a brilliant match, I know for a fact. I know how feisty Alfie is, and I know how brutal she can be. So I think if me and her got into a match, she'd definitely teach me a thing or two. There is one woman in UKW who who was in UKW who I think I could probably have a very interesting match with, and she was actually a member of, I believe it was the A New Dawn or maybe the Collective, but her name was Shelby Sinar, if I believe. It's been a few years since she's been in the ring, but she was a mainstay at UK wrestling for quite a while. And I think if I ever had a match with her, if she ever came back to UKW or any other promotion, I think we could have a really good match. I think she definitely could teach me a thing or two in terms of ring psychology and in-ring work. She's definitely a terrific worker in itself. So you never know. There's so many, like, women's wrestling in Britain is just huge.
Yeah, you know what's funny? In the last, I want to say since COVID, everything else, I know there was some obviously issues with the Speak Out movement during COVID and such, but I feel like in the last year, I've seen in different companies, I've seen women main event. I've seen it in the LWF. I've seen it in Odyssey Pro Wrestling this past week. And I really feel like the women's wrestling scene, in a lot of ways, it kind of parallels what I've seen in WWE, where you've seen, even to a lesser extent, AEW, where women's have main evented. I mean, countless Raws, countless pay-per-views. So those are good things. But let me get to Mr. Snow, because he's got a good question, which I think kind of summarizes your case, possibly, if you were going to be in the Fire and Gold tournament coming up here for the 8-person world-class title to be crowned on August the 13th here. And, of course, NSAW official. For more information on Facebook, Nonstop Action Wrestling. So let me get to this question for you here. You've got about 15 or 20 minutes here with pro wrestling star here, young Horus of UKW, Blackheart Wrestling, also NSAW, of course, which we talk quite a bit here on Sportzwire Radio and GT Ministries. And, of course, young Horus was also announced that he is going to be in the 30-person Rumble here to declare the number 1 contender on July the 16th at the Fountains Church in Bradford for Jack Johnson's GT Ministries World Championship. So young Horus very well could be the number 1 contender, the next man in line here. So certainly we will see. But Mr. Snow also says, if you were a part of the Fire and Gold tournament, what would that mean for you? Also, what would it mean if you won and became the first world-class champion?
To be honest with you, my record at NSAW isn't brilliant. I mean, it isn't in any company, but as far as Mr. Snow knows, he's seen my matches and he knows how terrific I can be inside the ring, given the right opponents and given the right circumstances, and if I'm given these opportunities, I don't take these things lightly. I definitely believe that if I was given that, even if I only made it, the first round of the tournament, that would probably be one of the matches that had everybody talking. Obviously, the main event, the winner would steal the show, but I highly doubt that people would forget young Horus in the tournament. And if I was to then even win, even win just one round, that means more to me than then a lot has gone on in my career, because that'll be the first win that I've ever had. It'll probably mean that I can finally start getting some momentum and can start, moving forward in my career. I feel like at the moment I'm almost stuck. I'm almost at a bit of a stalemate with myself, and that I need to overcome myself and overcome my own failures in order to, get that win and move on in my career.
Well, I was kind of funny, and I have a few other comments that I have from people that I was going to get to, and I always kind of wondered what that first win would kind of feel, because I always ask
Same.
this in sports.
Yeah.
I always kind of feel
me too.
I always ask different people, and I always ask them, hey, well, what would it mean if you won this? Or when I speak with politicians that have come on here, I say, well, what would it mean to you if you win the election? What would you do? Or I say to athletes, if you win a championship, what does that mean to you? Or even wrestling here, like yourself. I mean, you haven't won a match. It's kind of such a unique situation. I mean,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, I don't even. When answering his question, when answering Mr. Snow's question, I didn't even consider, winning the championship. I just considered winning the
match, right? Because you're like, well, I haven't won yet. So what do I know?
I haven't won yet. So why? If I haven't won any matches, why would I then think, right, I'm going to go out here and win this tournament? It's like with the GT Ministries Rumble. I don't think, okay, cool, I'm going to win the Rumble and then I'm going to immediately win the championship. No, I think, right, I'm going to get to the Rumble and I'm going to take it at the Rumble at face value and go from there, because there's no point in getting ahead of myself.
Let me get to obviously somebody you kind of mentioned and you kind of talked about here a little while ago, who's tuned in, and as of course Mr. Joe Sedgwick, and he says here, obviously with Celebration 13 coming up here, I mean, what would you want to do with Bration? What would you want to do?
I would love to get my revenge on Cayman Carlisle again. I think honestly, he's, he put me out in the hospital for several weeks, hit me with a steel chair. I had my match against him at Day of Reckoning, and I chose to be the better person, and that cost me my victory. That cost me the television championship. That cost me all the glory and my revenge. I think, personally, we should just throw out all of the rules, say, you know what, if you really, really want to do this, give me a chairs match for the television championship. And heck, if you really don't think, if you didn't think it was worth it, like I don't know, I'd put my mask on the line or something like that. I at the end of the day, I want my revenge, and I'm gonna go. If I don't get it at Bration, I'm gonna get it in the future. I know that for a fact. In terms of, I mean, I've got this Friday, tomorrow, I've got a match, a fatal 4-way match with Jacob Reed, Dan Adams, and Bishop to determine who's going to be the number one contender for the Genesis Wrestling Championship at WrestleBration. So they'll be the winner of that match is going to be facing Cliff Harrison, the current Genesis Wrestling champion. I would love to win the Genesis Championship. I faced him already once before. I faced Cliff 2 weeks ago, I think, and I was very close to becoming the Genesis champion. I mean, that brand in itself means so much to me, because I know for a fact that if I won, I was the first Genesis wrestling match. So when I debuted at Aftermath in August of 2021, I wrestled against Tom Steele in the first ever Genesis wrestling match. They unveiled the Genesis Championship just before I came out, and it was sat on the commentary desk for the entire match. And although I didn't win, I essentially ran Tom Steele out of UKW because they haven't seen him since. And UKW management know how much Genesis means to me, how much the Academy means to me, how much all of the opportunities they gave me means, because without them, I wouldn't be a professional wrestler. I wouldn't have these, I wouldn't be in the GTM Rumble. I wouldn't be even considered for the NSAW Fire and Gold tournament. I wouldn't be at Blackheart or at TNT. I wouldn't be anywhere. And without UKW and without Genesis, I wouldn't be young Horus. And I can't thank the people like Mustafa Khan, who is the Genesis, he's the Genesis general manager. You know, at the end of the day, he might be a bit of a scummy person at the moment, but he's the guy in charge. He's the guy who determined it, and he's the guy who unveiled the championship, who announced me, who brought me into UKW essentially, and to then face Cliff Harrison at WrestleBration and get that, you know, all important victory. I think if I won tomorrow and got that first win, that's going to be that. Whenever I get this first win, that's when the momentum starts.
And of course, I want to give a plug to UKW, because if anybody wants to go out and support UKW and watch young Horus and all the great talent that is a part of the roster there, you can go to ukw.tv on Instagram. You can also go to YouTube also for UKTV for all the great things they do. Also, of course, UKW Network. You can also stream over 115 hours of UKW action for only $4.99 a month, including pay-per-view replays, showdown, and WrestleBration. That's uknetwork.com, and follow all the great talent that UKW has to offer, including, of course, young Horus. And I've got some more comments. Let me try to run them down here. Is for Shotgun.
That's fine. We are also on Fight TV. You can find us on Fight TV, and we are also on Fightbox HD and several other networks that are available. You can always find us every week in Batley on the Friday.
Network, I think, right?
Sports Channel Network. Yep, definitely. We've just started a new partnership with Fightbox HD and Sports Channel Network, and it's helping to reach, you know, branch out across the world, getting global reach, people, you know, who are in, you know, countries half people haven't even heard of, or messaging in, or tuning in, or leaving comments, or getting involved. And it's terrific to realize what a massive network that we're actually developing. And every week, Friday, if you're in Batley, near Leeds, near Sheffield, if you're in Batley, every Friday for £1 a ticket, you can get in every single Friday and watch UKW Showdown.
Oh, listen,
you don't want to miss it every single week. Terrific show.
You can't go wrong with that £1 these days. I mean, listen, you can't even with £1. I don't even know what you can get with £1 these days.
You can't even get a litre of petrol for £1 these days, guys.
That's my point. Listen, that's my point here. In Fight TV, of course, we have a connection with on Sportzwire Radio, because Michael Weber, the man behind Fight TV, actually, we had him on the radio here not too long ago. So I certainly know.
Really? That's terrific to hear.
Yep. I know Michael Weber very well. Interesting guy, has an interesting background. So I can see why you guys fit in with Fight TV. But let me get to some comments, because I've got about 10 or 15 more minutes with you. I appreciate your time, and you have to be in the ring, obviously, for sure tomorrow night. But this is a two-part one from Joel Wheelhouse. Who do you reckon you'll get your first pinfall over? And then on top of that, at Bration, who would you rather face, Cliff or Cayman Carlo?
Okay, so you have to go top two paths with that. So if I want to face Cliff at WrestleBration, I'm going to have to pin either Bishop, Dan Adams, or Jacob Reed. Any three of those. I say Jacob Reed. He's been rubbing me the wrong way lately, and in our matches, he actually pinned me one time when I had a tag team match again with Dan Adams. I was teaming with Dan Adams, and I faced him and Sebastian Mercer. Jacob Reed hit me with the Jacob's Ladder and pinned me 1, 2, 3. I think I want to get my revenge on Jacob and get my first win over him. But personally, I really, really want my revenge on Cayman. I think that is long overdue. And Cliff is a terrific. I was the first person to celebrate with him in the ring when he won the Genesis Championship. I was straight out there, dived in the ring. The people watching the show probably thought I was going to attack him, because I ran so quickly out of that curtain in the ring. I hugged him. You know, I said, "Congratulations, you well deserved." And he's never rubbed me the wrong way. Cayman, I've got personal beef with Cayman. Cayman's not a nice person. He's a weasel, as everyone at UKW will tell you. He's a man-child who throws his toys out the pram when things don't go his way. And things don't go his way very often. So I need to right those wrongs. So my answer for that definitely Cayman. I want to get my first win over Cayman. That'd be even more
we want
bittersweet.
you to get a win altogether. That's for sure.
100%.
And I got to ask, because obviously this is a great question. What's your ultimate goal at UKW?
At the moment, is just to get a win. That'd be terrific. I'd love to stay at UKW for as long as UKW will have me, for as long as UKW exists. I hope that after I'm gone, after I've left this world, UKW is still running, and the grandchildren of Jonathan Sedgwick are running the company or something like that. I'd love that. But I want to be a part of UK, not only UKW, but wrestling as a whole, British wrestling as a whole, for as long as possible. I would love to become a Grand Slam champion. I would love to win the television championship or the Genesis championship. Every championship, around the clock. Why not? Why not?
Why not? Listen,
why not? I think the current champion at the moment is the Yorkshireman, and he's a big guy. He's beaten me before. I don't know if I could really. I'd have to really sneak up on him, but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get my first championship so cheaply. I'd want to do it face to face. So I think my ultimate goal is to just. I want to be able to leave UKW after I've finished, and I want people to remember me. I want them to when they play video packages that talk about the history of UKW. I want to be mentioned on them. I want my face to be there or my mask to be there. I just want people to acknowledge me as a professional wrestler and to appreciate the sacrifices that I have made, the work that I've put in, because I've not had it easy. When I first started training, I was told that I'd never be I didn't have a likable face. I've been told since then that I'm actually very attractive under the mask, but it's neither here nor there. But I was told I was looked at for my size and told that I just wasn't good enough, or wasn't big enough, or wasn't good at draw. That I had no chance. I didn't have people put faith in me until I came to UKW, and it was, funnily enough, it was Mustafa Khan who said to me, "Why have you never been booked on a show?" And I just said the companies that I trained at didn't want me on the show. They didn't see me as a draw or as potentially capable as a wrestler. And this was a month into so it was after the COVID. So we had all of COVID. So I was gone for maybe about 2 years from wrestling, and I turned up at UKW in the July, and in the August I was debuting. So within that month, they saw the potential that I had. They saw that I knew what I was doing, that I was capable, and they haven't looked back since. And I like to think that they haven't regretted their decision, and they obviously haven't, since they're putting me on every week. And I don't want to come across as cocky or confident, but when it comes to professional wrestling, it's one of the few things that I'm actually good at, that I've actually done well at. And regardless of wins and losses, I can actually say that I really have a huge passion for it. I've not had many things. I was never really a sporty person. I was never really good in school. I was never really, the top of the class or anything.
Right.
I've never had a passion. I was never, I've got a guitar in the corner of my room that I can play maybe 4 chords on, that I've had since I was 13. So 10 years now. And I can probably play the same song that I can play maybe Smoke on the Water or something, you know what I mean?
I think everybody learns that when they first try it.
I learned a bit of Metallica once. I used to be able to play the riff to One.
Oh yeah.
I used to be able to play that.
Yeah. I know that's
which is one of my favorite. I love Metallica, but I was able to play that. But when it came to stuff I'd love to have been a musician. When I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to be a singer. Oh no, I can't sing. Okay, I'll learn the drums. Oh, I've got no rhythm. Okay, maybe I'll try guitar. I can't learn chords, so it doesn't matter. And wrestling is the one thing that I've finally been able to go, right, I want to do this forever. I want to make it my career. I don't want it to be a hobby. I'm gonna be moving close to Batley towards the end of this year, just so I have better access to the companies that are around Leeds and Sheffield and Bradford, just so I can get there. And that's because I want to be a wrestler.
I could see it. I
That's how
tell you
committed I
what,
am.
I could see it in your like energy and your passion. Sometimes people come on and you go through the motions sometimes when you do these, and it's like anything else, right? It's people, you go through different moods, you go through different minds. But I mean, I could really tell that this is something that you're on the way to doing it, and I think that's why obviously we're excited to have you. And let me get this last question from our audience here, quote unquote, before we move on to get final thoughts. And this the last one I'll take is from Connor. Is there a match type you'd like to try? Anything that we haven't discussed? No death matches, by the way.
I would hate to do a death match, to be honest with you. No, that doesn't. Glass pipes? Nah, it doesn't. I've seen too many Dark Side of the Rings. I saw the
Yeah, I watched
Gage
it
one.
last season. Yeah,
That was
I saw that. Yeah, I did see that.
Horrendously violent. But no, I'd love to. I mean, I worked a steel cage match as my third ever wrestling match.
Okay.
So I'm not afraid of the stipulation against the bigger opponent. I like I said, if I was ever had the chance to wrestle Cayman again, I'd love to have just a chairs match. So just give us 10 chairs around the ring and let's just go crazy at each other. If he really wants to hurt me that much with a chair, let's do it. So as far as I know, UKW won't be doing the Dream Ticket. They will be having a Dream Ticket match at WrestleBration, but they won't be having a ladder match, which I believe is what they traditionally had. I'd love to be a part of a ladder match. Anything sort of like the like what Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy did, and Edge and Christian. I go back to thinking of my childhood.
Sure.
TLC matches, table ladders and chairs is definitely something. I wouldn't want to do like thumbtacks and barbed wire and stuff like that. That doesn't
You're not doing ECW. You're not
cutting
doing
myself
Terry
open.
Funk,
That doesn't excite me. It's not something, because people who do that stuff, they do it because they enjoy it.
Yeah, they do.
Want to.
I mean,
they don't do it they definitely don't do it for the paycheck.
Well, it's a gimmick. I mean, listen, Mick Foley and Terry Funk's second half of his career, Tommy Dreamer.
But look,
you throw in there,
I understand that,
Sandman.
and we've got they're hugely iconic figures, and you have nothing but everybody has nothing but respect for what they've done. But like, look at the state that they're in at the moment, like later into their lives.
Oh, Mick Foley was like 35 and he couldn't walk at 35.
Yeah, and he has like barely any teeth. He's got missing an ear. Terry Funk, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's blinded or something like that in one eye.
Last year, I think it was.
I know it's very sad what happens to some of these like.
Tommy Dreamer said, I think on Busted Open, that he visited him in the ranch in Texas, and he said he was like near death. I don't know now, but he was like,
nothing but like we all hope that they have like the recovery, and that they do make it out of whatever situations that they're in. But I would like to finish my career, and I know that I'll have bumps and bruises, but I would like to be able to walk and
well, you want to walk away from him, because
I don't want to have double hip replacement and like no back and a spine and like a back that's like ripped up by surgery. And
yeah, I mean, I heard
it just doesn't wrestling's very real. Like,
no, it's
very
real.
very real.
I was listening.
The damage it does to people is horrendous.
And
wrestling on a weekly basis as well, I noticed in my neck.
Oh, I'm sure.
I had to take physio whilst I was injured, because of the damage that I had done to my neck, as well as like my concussion. So I had to make sure that everything was, A-okay. And it was kind of good that I took that time off, because
you need it.
Gave me a bit of
I think I was listening to something before we move on here, and I think Kevin Nash said he had like 25 knee surgeries or something like that. 26 knee surgeries, some like crazy numbers.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I've never, again, touch wood, I've never broken a bone. I've never needed a surgery. Again, touch wood. I'm at a wooden desk, if you didn't notice. And I would like to be able to. Like, I see some things on like AEW and some of the more probably not so much in WWE, but more in like independent companies and stuff. People going like too crazy.
CZW. All I'll say,
For
CZW, not CCW.
they've
in the
got
UK,
quite large. They've
CZW.
got CZW have quite large crowds there.
Yes, huge.
I've seen videos of
GCW is
people
also
doing.
big now. GCW, have you caught
Yeah, I've seen
GCW?
videos of people doing crazy, crazy spots. Using fire and barbed wire and stuff in front of crowds of like 100 people most.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a question like, why are you doing that? Like, don't put yourself at risk for a tiny little pop in like a tiny little moment. It doesn't like tell a story. Get the people to care about the match and care about you over doing like crazy stuff. Like, I've done my fair share of crazy stuff. I took a power bomb against my will from Rex Savage from the top of the steel cage. Like I've been in my fair share of horrible situations, but I don't do that on a weekly basis, and I don't do it. I don't do it unnecessarily. You've got to tell the story. People care. Like people would much rather have a character that they care about than, oh my god, that spot was amazing. What did he do? I don't really remember, but they went through a table, so it looked cool.
Absolutely. No, listen, all stuff there. And obviously, an individual maybe related to a Goliath chimes in and says, Young Horus is the most exciting jobber I've ever seen. Let's go, champ. Pride comes back, says there are way too many death matches who give wrestling a bad name. They shouldn't be under the same umbrella of the sport. You guys work with Connor Cage. Yes, we had him on.
We do.
We work with him. He was on at the top, but you can check after we're off the air here in a few minutes. And obviously, I could talk all day with young Horus, but obviously he's got to get in the ring tomorrow night. It is getting late in the UK, and it has been a tremendous honor to have you here. And I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything that you want to plug, share, say. It has been an honor. I look forward to having you on here more often. I look forward to talking about all the great things you do. Hopefully some wins here upcoming, maybe July the 16th and August the 23rd for sure. Will certainly be some of those things here that we can talk about here. But I turn it over to you, my friend. I give you the floor. Anything you want to share, say, plug, and I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours.
Well, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to be here, and I didn't realize how long we'd actually been talking for. It's actually getting quite late. I didn't realize the time.
Well, you have a lot of supporters for somebody who hasn't won. You have
It's
plenty
been
of
brilliant.
people tuned
Yeah,
in,
exactly.
man.
And that's what I've said. Ever since especially ever since I came back from my injury, I've had nothing but love and support. And I said this when I in a segment at UKW last week that I appreciate everybody for all of the support, all of the love. The win is gonna come. I can't tell you when because I don't know myself, but it's gonna come eventually. I can guarantee you that. Like, there's no way that you can fight so hard for so long and things just don't go the way they're supposed to. Like, every cloud's got a silver lining. 0-31, I guarantee you, it's not gonna be 0 for too long. And I say, guys, right, so come see me. Young Horus shirts available. If you contact the Young Horus Facebook page, I can get them delivered out to you guys. Come see me any week, every Friday in Batley for the UKW Friday Night Showdown. Come see me and tune in on Fight and the UKW Network on July 30th for WrestleBration 13. Whatever happens there, whether I'm facing Cliff Harrison, whether I'm facing Cayman Carlisle, Jess the J-Ro Lewis, Cerebral Steve, it doesn't matter who we're facing. But I'm going to be there, and I really hope everybody else is going to be there. Don't forget, guys, I'm also going to be July 3rd, first Sunday in July, for Blackheart Wrestling's Rumble for their own Show Some Heart, I believe it is. And we're going to be at a Rumble for determining the number one contendership for the Blackheart Wrestling Championship.
There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, more Rumbles.
I think I got all that out.
I think you did. I think we got a lot of Rumbles. Like I said.
Oh, I tell you what, guys. I tell you what, Tom. It is Rumble season. Whether it's at the start of the year when the WWE Rumble is, or whether it's middle of the year. I always find summer is Rumble season. A lot of places are going to be
Absolutely.
doing Rumbles recently. A lot of places got the tournaments going on. I know NSAW have been having this idea of the tournament for absolutely months and months and months. I remember before they'd even put on a show, Mr. Snow coming up to me and saying, "Oh, we're hoping to put on a world-class tournament next year to determine the first NSAW champion." And I said, "Well, I'm definitely going to be the first person to stick my name in the hat. So all I can hope is that I believe they said it's random. So I don't know if they've got like an algorithm or if they've just got everybody's name in a hat and they pick them out at random.
I actually
and they go, right,
worked
today
on
we're doing this.
one of those things in a day job. I did a biometric study for like several weeks at a time with algorithms.
Wow.
So I don't know like if that is actually something that's
Well, I'm
being
not too
done
sure
here.
what they're doing. I
Yeah.
reckon it's just they've thrown everybody's name in a hat and they're actually just picking them out at random every
Well,
week.
I'll tell you
going,
what,
right, there we go.
I got Goliath Wednesday night, British Standard Time, 8:00. I'll ask him that question. Disciples coming back the next day. We're gonna have the Lawman Kyle Kennedy Sunday night, 8:00. Dante O'Cara's on July 4th. So I'll ask those guys. I'll ask him and tell them, hey,
That's
look,
terrific.
so I'll make sure we mention you, and definitely I'll get a lot of reactions, I'm sure. From
Yeah,
that.
definitely. And I tell you what, I'll have to come on after I've got that first win. And we can talk about either that first victory and how good that feels. And you can ask me the question, how does it feel?
I hope I'm the
finally have
guy.
that
I'll
first
tell you
win?
what. I hope it's Chris Slappin that doesn't ask you that question. I hope it's 3 Count Radio guy doesn't. I hope I get the first crack. 'Cause I know Broken but Glorious, everybody does their show. I know, obviously, Adam Barker and 3 Count Radio, all the LWF talent and the other talent go on his show. But I hope that I get the first crack to ask it. I hope that I get a Young Horus shirt. So I know I have a wild card Tommy Dillon shirt and a Champ Rogers shirt any day I'm supposed to receive. So I'll definitely make sure I go and purchase a Young Horus one.
Oh, that'd be terrific, buddy. Thank you so much.
Definitely make sure of that. And I thank you and everybody. If you are on Facebook, you can definitely like Young Horus's page on Facebook. Also, NSAW official on Instagram. Also, UKW.TV on Instagram. UKW TV also on Facebook as well. Also, you can like us at Sportzwire Radio on Facebook and sportnarium.com/player for all of our content. We are going back to our regularly scheduled programming over there. I want to thank Linda and Mac McGrath for giving us the Northeast Streaming Sports channel on Roku. So we were live tonight on cable on Roku. So I want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to speak with Connor Cage and Young Horus on there. Also, I want to thank GT Ministries. I want to thank Nonstop Action Wrestling. UKW Joe Cedric also messaged us. I want to thank Joe Cedric. I want to thank everybody on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we were with Connor Cage. And now Young Horus here to speak all things related to Nonstop Action Wrestling, GT Ministries, and the news that obviously they are both going to be in the 30-person Rumble tournament on July the 16th at the Fountains Church. Also, GT Ministries UK at all their platforms. We will be back here tomorrow night live on sportnarium.com/player and all of other platforms, 9 p.m. British Standard Time, as we get you ready for the LWF Red Rose Rodeo with the Scenario Nathan Gunn, Wildfire Nate Reese, and the Asset Stephen Cross. So a lot to get into with those guys. We'll hear the LWF side of the story, and we'll be back here speaking Nonstop Action Wrestling Sunday night, 8 p.m. British Standard Time with the Lawman Kyle Kennedy. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. We are with Young Horus, and prior to that, Connor Cage. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Good night. We'll be back tomorrow and Sunday for more Nonstop Action Wrestling coverage on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire.